We're going to have electricians and plumbers and carpenters, iron workers.
In all, the project is expected to create 600 local jobs. In Hollywood, I'm Anita Bennett for LA This Week.
Construction is expected to last about a year and a half, with the campus opening to students in 2014. The man who has worked tirelessly for 8 years as the city's HIV/AIDS coordinator is leaving his post, but not before being honored by the city he served.
It is estimated that 45,000 people in the city of Los Angeles have been diagnosed with HIV and AIDS since the beginning of the epidemic. And since 1989, the city of Los Angeles has been educating citizens on the disease and helping to prevent it from spreading with the help of its HIV/AIDS coordinator's office.
I am the 5th AIDS coordinator since Mayor Bradley created this position. I'm one of the 3 surviving AIDS coordinators because we lost the other 2 to the epidemic.
Stephen Simon has served the city for 8 years and is now leaving his post to advocate for HIV awareness with a private firm.
Steve, you've saved lives. You have saved lives. With the awareness and those who have been and are HIV, you've kept them going.
Simon instead reflected on what his predecessors had been able to do throughout the years with the support of the city council.
We enacted the world's first HIV and AIDS anti-discrimination law in housing and employment. We have always been at the forefront of this epidemic, so it's always been a matter of pride that I've been able to be a part of that.
Council members recall how Simon led by example, asking for city leaders themselves to take an HIV test.
You would actually take swabs from us and show people just how easy it was.
Simon received the recognition in council just as council proclaimed March 20th, 2012, National Native American HIV/AIDS Awareness Day here in the city of Los Angeles.
Stephen, you have been a great ally, advocate, both locally and nationally for our Native American community, and I want to honor and say thank you with that.
The Red Circle Project, which receives assistance from the city's AIDS coordinator's office, is the only HIV/AIDS prevention program in Los Angeles County that specifically provides services to the Native American Alaska Native community.
If our people are affected by this disease, we are not only losing a family member, a tribal member, a culture, a language, we're losing a whole people.
With the exit of the city's HIV/AIDS coordinator comes a reminder that the work of educating and preventing the disease is everyone's responsibility.
Fighting discrimination is the mission of the Anti-Defamation League, or ADL. And as Gil Reyes tells us, the organization has joined with local law enforcement to honor those who have taken a stand against hate.
Among the honorees, LAPD officer Manuel Arregue. He organized a truce between African American and Latino gangs in North Hollywood by first reaching out to their families' church leaders.
One of our core values is to treat everybody with fairness, and that's similar to what the ADL also stands for.
The ADL, or Anti-Defamation League, holds its annual award ceremony. The awards, dubbed the Helene and Joseph Sherwood Family Prize for combating hate and bigotry.
In all, 5 individuals and law enforcement agencies are being honored for going above and beyond the call with a message that combating hate crime is a team effort.
So the ADL, Los Angeles Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, FBI, the other public safety agencies that are here today, it's a moment to bask in the sun.
So many of them have invited their kids and their families because they don't get this kind of recognition. And so it's a joy to be able to do this.
Also honored, LA Superior Court Judge David Wesley for his innovative teen courtroom. The courtroom puts high school troublemakers on trial with a jury of their own peers.
Empowering young adults to take an active role in identifying and stemming juvenile crime in their own communities.
Ashley Williams, a self-proclaimed former troublemaker, was mentored by Wesley and became a teen court judge herself.
Thanks to his love and support through my college career, I will be graduating UCLA in June and attending law school, working towards my end goal of becoming a judge.
Law enforcement working alongside communities to reduce hate crimes in Los Angeles. At the Skirball Cultural Center, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Also honored, the multi-agency task force that put a deadly Canoga Park Street gang behind bars. Police say the gang targeted African Americans. Little Tokyo's Japanese American Museum played host to an international summit that aims to move Japan forward a year after the catastrophic earthquake and tsunami that destroyed parts of the country. Anna Marcos has more.
The world watched their TV screens in horror as wave after wave swallowed entire Japanese villages. It's been a year since the March 2011 earthquake that caused the devastating tsunami off the coast of Japan. Some of the tsunami's young survivors have crossed the ocean to help Japanese Americans in LA mark the one-year anniversary at this U.S.-Japan Council Summit.
I lost my father to the tsunami caused by the big earthquake in March last year. You are supporting us. Your hearts make our hearts very warm.
Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa also on hand to help remember a day that these survivors and those with loved ones in Japan will never forget.
I have two about your age. Can't fathom the pain of what it must be like to lose your father in the way that you have.
But this summit is about looking to the future and not just the past. The U.S.-Japan Council has introduced a new public-private partnership called Tomodachi, which means friends in Japanese. It's raising money to support Japan's recovery efforts. So far, the partnership has raised close to $3 million.
What I was most encouraged by was really the resolve of the people.
But much more progress needs to happen before Japan can truly move forward. Organizers at this summit hope their efforts at raising money will help. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The new partnership, Tomodachi, will also help support programs that strengthen cultural and economic ties with Japan. City officials and community leaders celebrate the completion of 2 new Hansen Dam projects. Rasha Goel explains.
The wetlands restoration and parking lot and a new skate park are the 2 latest improvements at the Hansen Dam Recreation Center. Both are enhancements which will help the local community recreationally and environmentally.
All of these features had to take on the challenge of the environment and work to ensure that we were doing these things in a way that was consistent with the environment.
The skate park is a 6,000 square foot concrete development that includes rails, bowls, banks, and other skateboarding features, as well as new native planting and an irrigation system.
If you look at what the #1 requested facility is in this city, it's skate parks. And so we felt it necessary, and the council office felt it necessary, I think as an assembly member, we felt it necessary, that we bring these facilities to the community.
The Hansen Dam Wetlands Restoration and Parking Lot Project was funded by the voter-approved Proposition O.
130-acre watershed is treated through this system of basins and parking lots. And the basins that hold the rain when it comes should drain in about 72 hours. It also serves as groundwater recharge.
Officials say these improvements are just the beginning of beautifying what they call the best park in the valley. In Los Angeles, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Animal shelters in Los Angeles are struggling financially just like anyone else, but they recently got a boost when a food manufacturer donated pet food to help feed the animals. Yana Kay has more.
These adorable puppies are having a great time playing with each other at the North Central Animal Shelter, which has struggled to make its budget work to take care of the animals. But now, thanks to a generous donation from pet food manufacturer Solid Gold, the shelter has got some much-needed help.
This is an amazing gift. It's just incredible. We love it. Our animals are going to be comfortable, well-fed, and happy as a result of this wonderful donation.
Friends of LA Animal Shelters, an organization that helps LA Animal Services, teamed up with Solid Gold to donate 20 tons of pet food, which can feed about 1,800 cats and dogs for 1 week. Officials say that pet food prices have increased 10 to 20%, making it difficult for shelters to work within their budgets.
So we decided to work very, very hard with
different companies to be able to donate items to city shelters.
Officials at Friends of LA and other animal lovers are encouraging other businesses to take a stand and get involved in their community animal shelters, just like Solid Gold did.
I think that's very nice of them, and I wish other companies would realize that it's also their job and their responsibility to help out.
Officials say any kind of help will go a long way in making sure these cute canines continue to lead happy and healthy lives. I'm Yana Kay for LA This Week.
The donation was shared between the city's 6 animal shelters. The huge boulder destined for a local museum finally arrives at its destination. Also, no more billboards parked along LA streets, and it's time to get your dog license. These stories and more in City Beat.
The 340-ton boulder has finally made its long journey from a quarry in Riverside to the Los Angeles County Museum of Art to be part of Michael Heiser's Levitated Mass exhibit. The over 21-foot-high boulder made a 12-day journey from the quarry to arrive at the museum. Our LA This Week camera captured the megalith as it parked for a public viewing near USC at Figueroa Street back on March 9th. The artwork will make its official debut at LACMA in November. That's when visitors will be able to walk beneath the levitated mass. The Los Angeles City Council has unanimously approved a ban on all mobile billboards, which residents say are a neighborhood blight.
This is whether they are standing alone or attached to a motor vehicle on any Los Angeles city street.
The new ban requires the city to issue a warning to a first-time offender at least 24 hours before impounding the vehicle. Subsequent citations would include a fine and possible jail time. The Los Angeles Parks Foundation partnered with the USC School of Landscape and Architecture to assess, develop, and conceptualize an ideal urban park for the city of Los Angeles. Those improvements can be found at Hoover Recreation Center, located at 1010 25th Street in Councilman Ed Reyes' district. At the park, you'll find new fitness equipment and a walking trail. The Los Angeles Parks Foundation received a generous donation from the Warner Family Foundation to support the construction of these park enhancements. And if you haven't gotten your dog's license yet, now's the time to do it. Amnesty for late dog license fees expires on the last day of this month. Humane officers will be canvassing Los Angeles city parks and neighborhoods, checking for current dog licenses. Dogs with license tags can easily be identified and returned home if lost. It costs $20 to license a spayed or neutered dog. An unspayed or unneutered dog costs $100 or more to license. More information can be found at anionlinelicense.lacity.org.
Lizards, turtles, and snakes, oh my. There's now more to see at the LA Zoo, where a new exhibition features some endangered and rare species. Rasha Goel has more.
9 years in the making, and now the Lair, or Living Amphibians, Invertebrates, and Reptiles exhibit is finally open.
But that's a wonderful exhibit that not only talks about reptiles and the connection to that nature, but in the modern world, how we have to build sustainable, valued buildings.
The new facility at the Los Angeles Zoo features 49 exhibits in 6 themed areas, including one named Betty's Bite and Squeeze Room after actress and zoo advocate Betty White, and a building with a green roof.
There's live plants up there, soil and live plants. It helps reduce the heat that goes back up into the atmosphere and reduce global warming. The plants obviously add oxygen to the environment as well.
The murals in the building, as you walk through, you will see are all hand painted with different art by different artists, representing the natural habitats of the animal places in the exhibits.
At this exhibit, there are over 60 species of amphibians, invertebrates, and reptiles from across the world, including places such as Africa and China. In fact, I'm sitting next to the world's largest amphibian, the Chinese giant salamander. There are a total of 4 in the country. 2 of them are here in Los Angeles. And according to zoo officials, the exhibit gives guests a chance to get up close and personal with these unique creatures.
The fact that you can be nose to nose with a green mamba, one of the deadliest creatures on the planet, safely, I think is a pretty cool experience.
This place is just amazing. If you like bugs and reptiles, you know, it's definitely a place to be.
And even if bugs and reptiles are not your favorites, it's still worth checking out some of these creatures who were on this earth even before we were. From Los Angeles, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
In this week's list of things to do, a musical flashback to the 80s, a special day at the zoo for Scouts, and an exhibit on one of the Beatles coming to an end at a museum near you.
If you love the 80s, then you'll want to catch the worldwide party musical Rock of Ages at the Pantages Theater. The story goes, in 1987 on the Sunset Strip, a small-town girl meets a big-city rocker, and they fall in love to the greatest songs of the 80s. You can catch the musical Saturday, March 24th at 8 p.m. at the Pantages at 6233 Hollywood Boulevard. For other dates and ticket information, go to pantages-theater.com. The LA Zoo is offering junior Girl Scouts and Cub Scouts the opportunity to earn a special zoo patch and spend the day learning about zoos, zoo careers, animals, and conservation. It's all part of its Zoo World Patch program, which takes place Saturday, March 24th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The LA Zoo is located at 5333 Zoo Drive. To find out the cost and to make reservations, call 323-644-4211, extension 0. And it's your last chance to catch the George Harrison Living in the Material World exhibit at the Grammy Museum at LA Live. The exhibit, which opened in October of last year following the broadcast premiere of Martin Scorsese's documentary of the same name, ends Sunday, March 25th. The exhibit on the 12-time Grammy Award winner features dozens of items from the private collection of the Harrison estate, including photographs, Harrison's stage costumes, instruments, and personal sketchbooks. The Grammy Museum is located at 800 West Olympic Boulevard, Suite A245. More info can be found at GrammyMuseum.org. And remember, you can find this information on our Facebook page. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do.
Everybody knows about Chinese New Year, but in LA's Chinatown, just like in the old country, the impending arrival of spring brought out families to celebrate another festival, the Lantern Festival.
The El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historical Monument came alive with the clanging of gongs and the rhythmic dancing of dragons. What's usually the home of Olvera Street was transformed into a modern interpretation of a Chinese village during the Lantern Festival.
We are here on sacred ground because this is where the original Chinatown was. About 3,000 people, 160 years we celebrate Chinese Americans here who have made this city as strong as it is. And the Lantern Festival is a recognition of that.
The Chinese came to California during the gold rush and stayed to help build our nation's railroads. Today, the Chinese American Museum, located at the El Pueblo Historical Monument, tells the stories of the earliest Chinese Americans.
Wonderful displays that talks about not only about Chinese history, but history of everyone who's ever come to Los Angeles.
But on this day, it was all about the museum's 11th annual Lantern Festival, which signals the closing of the Chinese New Year festivities.
The analogy I like to use is that Lantern Festival is akin to the Sunday brunch at the end of the Thanksgiving weekend, when family gatherings must come to an end and everybody needs to return to their respective places of daily living and work.
Just like the public streets in Old China, the El Pueblo courtyard was festooned with colorful lanterns of all shapes and sizes, which represent joyfulness, luck, and the return of spring.
It's a great event. It has gone on for thousands of years, but we also get to celebrate the Chinese history, the influence, and the contribution to this great city.
The Miss Chinatown pageant queen and princesses livened up the festivities even further when they visited the festival donning tiaras and traditional Chinese dresses. An auspicious end to Chinese New Year celebrations and the beginning of a prosperous year to come.
Chinatown was moved from its original location at the El Pueblo Historical Monument to its current location in 1938. As Chinese Americans wind down their New Year celebration, Iranian Americans begin theirs, called Nowruz, which marks the beginning of spring. Anita Bennett takes us to the city's annual Persian New Year festivities at City Hall.
Nowruz Mubarak, that's Happy New Year. For many of our Los Angeles residents who are of Persian descent,
For the 8th straight year, Los Angeles marked Nowruz, the Persian New Year, with a celebration at City Hall.
Nowruz, the Persian New Year, symbolizes that unique human trait, hope, which allows all of us to move past the difficulties of today and imagine a tomorrow full of possibilities to be better, to do better, to love better, and to better understand the ways of nature.
The tradition dates back thousands of years and is celebrated by people of Iranian descent around the world. As for LA's festivities, they were spearheaded by Councilman Tony Cardenas as a way of honoring the city's Persian residents and workers.
There are over 300 Iranian Americans that work in various professions and capacities right here for the city of Los Angeles.
Then the councilman made a special presentation to the leaders of the Persian community.
And the celebration continued here in the rotunda of City Hall, and among those taking part, Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa.
It's an opportunity for us to be grateful for the many contributions of Persian culture and Iranian people here in Los Angeles.
The festivities drew residents from across LA County.
It's very important for us, and the more important thing is Americans are recognizing our New Year, and actually we are very, very honored to be here in the City Hall and celebrate our New Year.
And strengthen the community that we have in Los Angeles. That's why we always get together here to celebrate the old tradition for the Iranian people.
This is just the start of the celebration, as Nowruz lasts a total of 13 days. At City Hall, I'm Anita Bennett for LA This Week.
And that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
What if a disaster strikes without warning?
Okay, Sergeants, let's get on the phone. I want to thank the members of the On-Time Caucus. Mr. Buscaino is here, coming off of his great Emmy Award-winning performance last night. Come on, members, let's come on down to the council chambers, and Sergeant, if you would please call the members. We're joined by Mr. Reyes. Mr. Weezer is here. is here, as is Mr. Labange. Mr. Reyes, you want to get started with your presentation? Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to your Los Angeles City Council. We meet 3 times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. All of our meetings are open to the public. We're going to begin the presentation section of our agenda today. And Mr. Reyes, the floor now belongs to Mr. Reyes. Mr. Labange, if I could see you.
Good morning again, everyone, and now we welcome the great councilman of the 1st District, Mr. Ed Reyes.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Los Angeles.
Good morning.
Every March, the Salvadoran American Legal Education Fund and the Central American Council celebrate the life and work of Monsignor Oscar A. Romero. As Archbishop of the Salvadoran Roman Catholic Church, Monsignor Romero witnessed ongoing violations of human rights. As a result of witnessing these atrocities, Monsignor Romero initiated a movement that chose to speak out on behalf of the poor and the victims of the country's civil war. Monsignor Romero embraced a nonviolent form of liberation theology, a position which led to comparisons with Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King. In 1980, he was assassinated by the Salvadorian army as he held the consecrated host up during Mass. In 1997, a cause for beatification, the Monsignor, and canonization into sainthood was open for Monsignor Romero. And Pope John Paul II bestowed upon him the title of Servant of God. The process continues. He's considered by some the unofficial patron saint of the Americas. Members of the Council, today I would like to welcome our guest organizations, Salif, Clinica Romero, Carecen, Los Angeles Salvador Sister City Committee, and the Monsignor Oscar Romero Charter School. Peace is not the product of terror or fear. Peace is not the silence of the cemeteries. Peace is not the silent result of violent repression. Peace is generous, tranquil contribution of all to the good of all. Peace is dynamism. Peace is generosity. It is right and it is duty. These are his words, powerful words that led to his death. But even though Monsignor Romero's life was taken, his voice was never silenced. This is evident today. You can feel it in this room. You can see it in the faces of those who are present here to commemorate his legacy. You can see it in the work that is carried out day in and day out in every organization that fights for the rights of the poor and marginalized anywhere in the world, but especially here in Los Angeles. Organizations like Salve, Carecen, and Monsignor Romero Charter School that do all they can to uplift us all. I'm honored to be a witness of their dedication to carrying out Monsignor Romero's legacy. I'm honored to have learned from them. I'm honored to have accompanied them in their struggles. And 32 years after his death, and many miles away from his homeland, the city of Los Angeles comes together to celebrate his life and to make a commitment to furthering his vision of a peaceful and just world. To me, colleagues, the importance of his name and his presence has allowed our organizations here in Los Angeles to contend with the issues that have plagued our families. The violence of the gangs, the dropout situation our kids are enduring. More importantly, the alienation our parents feel when they can't speak the language or understand the system. And it's through these organizations that we address these needs and are able to change their quality of life. I want to thank everyone for reminding us of Monsignor Romero's transforming words and legacy. So as indicated in this resolution, so today be it resolved that the Los Angeles City Council does hereby declare March 24th, 2012 as a day of remembrance of Archbishop Oscar Romero of El Salvador on the occasion of the 32nd anniversary of his martyrdom. I want to thank Carlos Vaquerano and Salve, the Los Angeles San Salvador Sister City Committee, Dr. Pacheco from Clinica Romero and the board and the leadership, Martha Arevalo from Carecen, Monsignor Romero Charter School. I also want to recognize Silvia Bertrand from my office, who as a Salvadorian, who migrated here from her motherland and has worked with our youth, our parents, and as a deputy has been able to be a role model for the young ladies, but also in making sure that we all work together to create this change. So I thank you, colleagues, for this moment. I thank you for allowing us to recognize Archbishop Oscar Romero, Monsignor, and I'd like to provide a moment for our guests.
Good morning, Council President. Thank you very much, Councilmember Reyes, for your leadership. For the past 7 years, the City of Los Angeles have proclaimed this March 24th, the Day of Remembrance of Monsignor Romero. Since the establishment of the sister city relationship between the city of San Salvador and Los Angeles, both cities have come together, but not only the cities, but the country of El Salvador and the city of Los Angeles. I have had the opportunity to take several members of the City Council to El Salvador to witness and to learn about the history of El Salvador, to learn about who we are as Salvadorians, because many of you represent us in your districts. So I want to thank you all for visiting El Salvador. I want to thank Council Member Eddie Garcetti for leading the process of the sister city relationship when he went to El Salvador in 1994, as well as now the mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa. I also want to thank Councilmember Tom LaBonge, who is the president of the Sister City Association, who's been leading this process for the past 7 years. Obviously, this wouldn't be possible without the support of all of you. Councilmember Wizard, Councilwoman Zine, Councilmember Zine, John Perry, and many of you who have been, supporting these efforts. And today, actually tomorrow, marks the 32nd anniversary of the assassination of our great leader, Monsignor Romero. Many of us left El Salvador for the many atrocities that were committed during those days. I personally lost 3 brothers in the war, and after Monsignor Romero was killed in March 1980, all of us said, if he was killed, what would happen to all of us? Thank God many of us are alive, and we're here to continue his legacy. And we promise that with your support, we will continue working towards his dream, which is social justice for all Salvadorians around the world. So thank you again for your support, and we look forward to continue working with you. Thank you.
Carlos, thank you very much, and everybody as well.
Good morning. My name is Marta Arevalo. I'm the Interim Executive Director for Carecen, and I want to thank you, the City of Los Angeles, the Sister Cities Committee, Councilmember Ed Reyes for leading this effort, the Salvadoran American Legal and Educational Fund for also leading this effort, because in commemorating this Salvadoran Latin American hero, you're commemorating the Salvadoran American community in Los Angeles and the United States that really grew as a result of the Civil War in El Salvador. We also want to say that in his memory, we are putting together a campaign, a national campaign, to ask for permanent residency for the hundreds of thousands of Central Americans who have been here for more than a decade, for them to receive their permanent residency. We hope that you support that effort. But once again, thank you very much for this day. It is very special for the Salvadoran American community, because in recognizing him, you recognize us. Thank you.
Mr. Reyes, thank you.
I'd like to, one more moment, introduce Edgardo Marquez, an 8th grader with the charter school.
Good morning. Good morning. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ricardo Marquez. I'm an 8th grade at Monsignor Romero Charter School. I'm here today to talk about Monsignor Romero and what he is important to our community. Monsignor Romero is important to our community because he is a good role model to those who believe in social justice. He showed us that we all need to defend the right of all humans' rights, especially since we still see humans' rights be violated around the world. Monsignor Romero once said the following: "You should not just aspire to get more, but to be more." In my personal opinion, Monsignor Romero is not only a leader to Salvadorian people, but also a leader to the Los Angeles community. I'm proud to go into a school that not only respects Monsignor Romero, but also has a strong devotion to his memory. At our school, we have the Monsignor Romero Club, where we are taught how to take care of our community and our school. We're also taught to be leader in our community by doing community service work once a month. Monsignor Romero was a great leader. I'm going to try and follow his footsteps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Thank you. We have some colleagues who would like to make some remarks. So I'd like to call on Mr. Garcetti right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Reyes, for doing this and for joining with Salef and Carecen, all the great organizations that have been a part of making sure in the school as well that we never forget. And Mr. Reyes and myself, we've received what to me is one of the deepest honors, which is the Romero Award a couple years ago as well. And it was a great joy to go down and not only to start a sister city relationship, which is a good beginning, but to look at the substance of that relationship, to visit, to see where Oscar Romero spoke to the people, to see the place where he was gunned down inside the church, to understand and to hear and to understand the stories of those who were ripped away from the country to come here and to create a new life here in Los Angeles. As a man of peace, you know, it was interesting, his life, he was not a radical. He was actually picked because he was a moderate. And it was when Rutilio Grande, his friend who was a priest, was killed, that he in his mind said, I have to speak up and I have to speak out. For all of us, no matter what your politics are, there are moments in time in which you learn there are moments of truth in which you have to stand up and be counted for justice. And when I was looking just a moment ago around the world, you see in New Delhi, and you see in Ireland, you see in Milwaukee, you see in London, you see here in Los Angeles, and of course in El Salvador, people around the world now celebrating who this man was. A symbol not just of one country, but of this entire earth. And I want to thank you for doing this, and I hope it will inspire all of us, whether you're facing that moment as a young person in a dangerous community, whether it's the choices we make in life, that we can stand up and tell the truth, that we will be rewarded. And whatever the Catholic Church does with its road, he is absolutely a saint to me already, and thank you. God bless Oscar Romero.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Zine.
Thank you, and Carlos, thank you for being here, and thank you for coming to the 3rd Council District for your residence. I do appreciate that. Archbishop Romero, age of 13, decides he wants to follow that desire to help people, to serve people, and fulfills that, and how tragic and how sad while celebrating Mass assassinated. But the good that the Archbishop did in his memory for the poor, for the downtrodden, for the people that need, and for the group that's here today to show respect, continued respect, and admiration for the good work that he did. I just want to acknowledge the good work. I want to acknowledge you and the folks that are continuing to support this, because we once forget, then the memory fades. We don't want that memory to fade. We want it to continue. So congratulations. You've got my undying support for this, and God bless as he's in heaven with the angels where he belongs. But there's so much more he could have done if his life would have continued. But the tragedy that occurred, that tragedy that did not have to occur, and so many people have been affected by that. So to you, congratulations for being here, and you've got my support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zine. Mr. Weezar.
Thank you, Mr. President. And once again, it's an honor to have members of the Salvadoran community come in to recognize a hero not only for Salvadorans but for all of us, someone who was willing to give of his life 32 years ago, knowing that the work he was doing and the tension that was there with death squads and death threats, that he was still willing to stand up for what he believed in, is a testament to all of us in terms of what we can do to ensure that we continue to fight for social justice. And the fight continues. We got to ensure that the Salvadorans who are here because of the violence that was in El Salvador in the 80s, that we make sure they get permanent residency. We got to make sure that El Salvador continues to have democratic elections. And Mr. Bacarano, I want to thank you for inviting me to go down there to be an international observer in those elections. The fight's going to continue in El Salvador and throughout the world, but it's people like Archbishop Romero that reminds us that the fight for social justice continues. So adelante. Thanks again for being here once again, and we will never forget Archbishop Romero. Thank you.
Mr. Alarcon.
Well, I want to thank Councilman Reyes for bringing this to our attention again, and to the Salvadoreño community for recognizing their tremendous hero. I have a particular connection. One of my staff members, Ana Grande, is related to another martyr from El Salvador, Father Grande, who I believe is her great uncle, but he was also assassinated, and in fact was a very dear friend of Monsignor Romero, and in many ways might have helped inspire him to be a champion for the poor. And I think it's important for all of us to recognize that in this case the Catholic Church stood out for people of poverty, trying to raise all the ships, and in a country that suffers from high rates of poverty. Clearly he is a hero equivalent to our Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King, and the like. So it is important for us, given the tremendous impact that the Salvadoreño community has in the city of Los Angeles, to recognize their heroes and to ensure that the young people of our community know their history so that they will be better for it. And they say that understanding your history provides you a good foundation for your future, and I can't think of a better role model than Monsignor Oscar Romero for our young people in particular. So thank you so much for this presentation, and personally on behalf of my staff member Ana Grande, we all say thank you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. Mr. Reyes, thank you. And Carlos, thank you. And All the sister cities do a great job. Mr. Reyes.
In conclusion, I just want to state that as the state continues in its generosity in passing down challenges and problems to the cities, as they continue to cut salaries of our teachers and classes and our universities, our junior colleges, our classrooms, it's these organizations that have stepped up and addressed these concerns in education and welfare and health. And we need to continue supporting them and finding ways to address these very critical needs in these very dire times. So again, thank you so much for this moment, and thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Appreciate it. God bless the memory. Monsignor Romero. Mr. Clerk, let's please call the roll at this time.
Alarcon, Buscaino, Cardenas, Englander, Garcetti, Weezer, Carres, Gregorian, LaBlanche, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zine, Wesson. 13 members present and a quorum. Mr. President.
Yeah, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Rosendahl moves, Mr. Zine seconds. Next item.
Mr. President, that would be commendatory resolutions for approval.
Yeah, Mr. Garcetti moves, Mr. Weezer seconds. Next item.
Mr. President, that takes council to items 1 and 2. There are items for which public hearings have been held.
Public hearings have been held. Any a call for item 1 or 2? Let's vote on 1 or 2 now, Mr. Clerk.
Very good, sir.
Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item.
Mr. President, items 3 through 11 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Let's open the roll. Without objection. Say it again. Mr. Clerk. Do we have cards?
Without objection, those matters could be considered, sir.
Then we'll consider it. So let's see if we have any specials on 3 through 11.
Mr. President, pardon me. Before doing so, we do have cards on items 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 11.
Okay, we'll call those items special. Members, does anyone have any other items that are special, 3 through 11? So 10 votes are required for consideration without objection. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, if you'd like, we could open the roll for items 8, 9, and 10. 8,
Very
9,
good.
and 10 are still
8,
before
9,
you.
and 10, no cards, and no, we have it corrected. Let's open the roll on 8, 9, and 10. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, at this point in time, would you like to return to the presentations?
Yes, I would, right now. And I have to call on a special Joe Boiscayano of the 15th District for an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I can ask the U.S. Ambassador. Thank you, colleagues and those present here. It gives me great pleasure to introduce and welcome the U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Cape Verde, Ambassador Adrienne O'Neill. Give her a round of applause and welcome her for the first time to City Council chambers. Cape Verde is an island country off the coast of Western Africa. Ambassador O'Neill was confirmed this past October. Previous assignments have included Deputy Chief of Mission at the U.S. Embassy in Lisbon, Director of the Office of Public Affairs and Public Diplomacy for Europe and Eurasian Affairs, Principal Officer at the Consulate General in Rio de Janeiro, and Deputy Press Secretary to the Director of National Drug Control Policy at the White House. The Ambassador is also the mother of one of my staff members, Quincy O'Neill, who is my, we love you, Quincy, he's my field deputy in Watts and Harbor Gateway. Ms. O'Neill, welcome, and on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, I'd like to welcome you and wish you the best as you represent the United States in Cape Verde. Thank you so much.
Very good, Councilman. We're going to call on Mr. Garcetti. Madam Ambassador, please just speak from Joe's microphone for a moment, because you fill out your report. You could state that you address the City of Los Angeles.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Good morning, Los Angeles. It's a very great pleasure and honor for me to be here today representing the small island nation of Cape Verde. Cape Verde is a country with deep water ports, and its fledgling and developing economy could benefit from collaboration and from the expertise used in the mega international port of Los Angeles. So I hope that we'll be making those connections, and you'll be hearing from Cape Verde again soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador O'Neill. Now, Mr. Garcetti for the next presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues. It is a real honor for me today to be able to present on behalf of myself and the mayor the 5 winners of the annual Minority Business Awards. Los Angeles is the most diverse city on the face of the earth, the most diverse city probably in human civilization, in the history of human civilization. And when we look at the lifeblood of our communities, when we look at the strength of our economy, that diversity is reflected. Oftentimes we do not have enough of a reflection of those people of color, of those folks who are running businesses, who are women, those people who are really part of the large job growth that we have in this city that represent who we are in all corners of the city. I'm reminded of my grandfather, Salvador, who came here when he was just 1 year old, carried over the border in his mother's arms during the Mexican Revolution. And when he finally figured out and got his life together and fought in World War II and earned his citizenship by wearing this nation's uniform, he then opened up a small business right here in Los Angeles, one in which he was able to have his own barber shop, interact and bring up his family situation. And today we have folks that have had the same pathway of investing in a dream, in an idea, and building up a business, both those who have been born here and grew up here and those who have immigrated here. And, you know, these minority business enterprises that we're honoring here today have contributed to construction, to technology, to global export, to green technology, and to the environment, creating 649 jobs here in the city of Los Angeles. And don't we need some good jobs news? Let's congratulate these extraordinary businesses that are here and thank them. The construction firm of the year, it goes to TEC Constructors and Engineers. And Timothy Coffey, his commitment to the underserved and underemployed areas of Los Angeles, we want to give him congratulations and thank him for his extraordinary work in the city of Los Angeles. This is the construction firm of the year. Please, a round of applause for him. Our second winner is the technology firm of the year. And it's 3S Global Business Solutions. And I'd like to ask Sujit and Sam to come forward. Make sure I have the right certificate here. We know that technology is where jobs are being created as we've gone from an agricultural to a manufacturing economy, from manufacturing to services. It is tech that is our future. And we're so pleased to be able to honor 3S Global Business Solutions, whose nationwide web development and IT consulting continues to create jobs here in the city of Los Angeles. Please join me in congratulating 3S Global Business Solutions.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Next, we have the Green Energy Firm of the Year. And Los Angeles has quickly put itself at the center of green energy innovation and technology around this country and around the world. And our winner this year, under Patricia Watts' leadership, is FCI Management Consultants. Their expertise in water and energy efficiency services. We know just how much money we can save our businesses, but what we can do well for another bottom line, our environment. When we look at the city, for instance, the policies that have led us to consume the same amount of water today as we did 30 years ago with 1 million more people, it is because of FCI and other folks who are cutting the pathway to making sure that we have a sustainable city. Please join me in congratulating Patricia and FCI Management Consultants, the Green Energy Firm of the Year. And then the Green Environmental Firm of the Year is Saphos, whose leadership under Marie Campbell, it's the largest environmental team in Los Angeles, marking a 20% growth in staff since 2009. And we thank them for the work that they are doing as well. As we know, Los Angeles has been a city that is blessed with great weather, blessed with great topography, but how we can live sustainably with our environment is something that Saphos has done a great job making sure that we always know. Please congratulate our Green Environmental Firm of the World, Saphos. I mean, of the year. We'll make it the world, too.
Thank you.
We'll make it the world, too. Thank you. Congratulations. And then last but certainly not least, the Global Export Firm of the Year is Aldelano Packaging, for providing high-quality labor and becoming one of the nation's leading providers of fulfillment and managed staffing. We thank you for what you do to help other firms make sure they have the people that they need. And we are very proud to present the Global Export Firm of the Year, one of the core industries of our economy here, which is trade, the Aldelano Corporation. Congratulations. Give them a round of applause.
Everybody, big round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Garcetti, very much for that.
And what a well-deserved honor for these minority-owned firms that have now become staples of our economic growth, helping create jobs, encouraging minority entrepreneurship, not just in Los Angeles, but the entire nation. And just to sum up, Mr. President, we are home to 325,000 small businesses. About 70% of them are owned by people of color or women. And our city hosts hundreds of cultures. It is this diversity that contributes to our thriving metropolis and the economic engine. We represent the real America here, and thank you to the Mayor's Business Opportunities Committee for giving resources to small and emerging businesses who are in need of assistance and access to capital. It's an incredible partnership, and we have looked at MBDA has contributed an economic output of about $1 trillion nationwide, and these honorees are a big part of that. So I want to commend our honorees, thank them and the MBDA Business Center for their dedicated service and commitment to our community. Let's give a round of applause to our entrepreneurs who are creating jobs in our backyard. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcetti. Great work. And all those business people, so important to help and support. In a moment, I'm going to call on a special recognition for the American Red Cross by Councilwoman Perry. But for a quick introduction, Mr. Zine, Dennis Zine.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Behind me, we have students from the Valley Schools, El Camino, Canoga, Monroe, and these students are in a program that we have called Democracy by Design, and all the students that you see here are on a day at City Hall to see how it works. Was there another school? Reseda. Okay, thank you. Don't want to forget Reseda and Nancy Sweeney, the great folks from Reseda. Anyway, they're here to see how City Hall operates. These are all high school students in our local high schools in the San Fernando Valley. We have a program, Ron Rubine, who's my coordinator from my office, coordinates this program, Democracy by Design. They're seeing government in action. So we want to welcome them to City Council chambers today. Let's hear it for the high schoolers from my district. Thank you.
Very good there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Zine. Now I'd like to call on Councilwoman Jan Perry.
Hey, you guys, come on up. How are you? Great to see you. Good. Great to see you. Hi. Hello. How are you? You want to do 2 and 2? Is that City Hall? Yeah. Cindy gave it to me. That's really nice. I know, right? Yeah. Here, stand on either side and spread it out. Okay. Great. All right. Thank you very much. I'm standing with Paul Schultz, CEO, Jeff Sakaguchi, Board Chair, Steve Allen, I guess CDO, what does that stand for?
Chief Development Officer.
Chief Development Officer, and Sharon Sandow. And they are all here on behalf of Prepare LA, and Sharon is the project manager. So I am proud to present members of the American Red Cross to our City Council in order to educate communities about the services they provide to the public each and every day. Since 1943, the President of the United States has declared March Red Cross Month. And today we do the same in the city of Los Angeles. Red Cross Month is a month-long observance that calls on all Americans to give back by making a donation, volunteering, getting educated on life-saving skills like CPR, or by giving blood. As part of this year's observance, the American Red Cross Los Angeles region is raising awareness of the importance of disaster preparedness for every Angelino. Under the Red Cross Prepare LA campaign, a 3-year effort that has sought to strengthen disaster response capacity and increase the number of shelter spaces from 210,000 to 500,000 in the city of Los Angeles. All communities are encouraged to be prepared for the next natural disaster. The Prepare LA campaign also seeks to increase the capacity to distribute meals from 1.8 million to 4 million a day, and encourage and empower and train volunteers in disaster preparedness. And I am proud to be a part of the Prepare LA campaign. As the second largest city, I believe it is imperative that we increase emergency preparedness awareness. Being prepared includes training 250,000 individuals in life-saving first aid, such as CPR and automated external defibrillator devices. It is for these reasons I would like to welcome CEO Paul Schultz, Board Chair Jeff Sakaguchi, and representatives from the Los Angeles region of the American Red Cross, and thank them for all they do to create a robust ecosystem of sustainable disaster logistics and communications systems. Would you please give them a hand?
Great hand there, the American Red Cross.
Councilman Perry, thank you so much for sponsoring this initiative. Councilman Labange, Councilman Zine, thank you so much for the support that you received from us at our breakfast last month. We are in the middle of our Prepare LA campaign. As we've all seen in China, in Haiti, in Chile, and Japan not a year ago, major disasters can hit major metropolitan areas. And that will happen sometime in Los Angeles. We can help this community get better prepared, and that's what's really behind Prepare LA. So we look forward to your support, and I'd like to introduce Jeff Sakaguchi, our board chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you very much to the Council for having us today, and to Councilwoman Perry for sponsoring our initiative. One thing that we've learned from the major disasters around the world is that preparedness makes a big difference. It saves lives. It returns the businesses that we count on for our economy back to business sooner, and it really makes a difference. But we also know that preparedness is something that happens in your neighborhood, with your families, with your communities. And Prepare LA is all about getting communities prepared. So thank you for your support, and we look forward to working closely with you as we help Prepare LA. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep, that's it.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Perry, thank you. Prepare LA, thank you, Red Cross. A big hand. Be prepared. The earthquake will come again. But before you go away, hold on just a second. Mr. Zine, who is always prepared, he wants to say a few words.
I just want to acknowledge Councilmember Perry for bringing this forward, and we did attend that breakfast at the Disney Concert Hall. I know that ABC7 and the Red Cross and Ms. Perry, the whole focus of being prepared, because it's going to happen. We just don't know when. So I want to acknowledge for bringing this forward. It's a very, very important issue. People don't pay much attention to it. Hopefully we will wake them up to pay attention. Again, Ms. Perry, thank you. The Red Cross, Sharon Sound, good seeing you again. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. And preparedness is so important. Mr. Clerk, are we prepared for public comment at this time?
Yes, sir, we are.
All right, let's open it up for public comment. Sergeants, if you could make the adjustments there. Now let me call on Dr. Tom Williams, Diane Lawrence, Arnold Sachs. If you could please line up. Thank you. Go, Doctor. Come on, Doctor. I'm listening to you.
Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council board member and participant in many fire department exercises for brush. Today, we're going to talk about the fire department that's going to meet with the Public Safety Committee at 2 o'clock. Strange, but what's the problem? There's a lot of secrecy in the fire department proceedings. We don't know what goes on because documents aren't provided. We do have some situations. We do know that the City of LA has the most stringent brush clearance requirements in the United States. But are they enforced? When are they enforced? And this year, it will be a new and early brush fire season. What happens then? Well, the fire department reallocates the limited resources that they have for fighting fires to the hillside areas. Oh, but that's where they should have already cleared the brush. So why do we need the brush reallocation at the end before the fire season begins when we've already supposedly cleared the brush? Seems strange, but that's part of the fire department. How long does it take to respond? I once saw an engine company from El Sereno going to Echo Park. That seemed a little bit strange, but they had their full emergency lights and sirens going, and it went to Echo Park from LA 32 Neighborhood Council. So while they were over in Echo Park, we didn't have much in the way of protection. So this afternoon's meeting should be rather interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'd like your attention. Hello, I'm here to speak to you all, so if I could have your attention. I've been reading about your concern with LAFD response times, and I'm here to address that issue. I find it exceedingly ironic that Councilman Wesson is your president now, and suddenly this issue has become an issue. In 2005, you guys approved a motion introduced by Councilman Ludlow that allowed a handful of residents in CD10 to install traffic barriers in the Western Heights community. This was done without vetting in community, without required traffic studies, without sign-offs or approval by LAFD or LAPD. And let me tell you what you rubber stamp. The installation of a full closure right next to our neighborhood fire station, preventing them from immediate access and delaying their response to calls west of us. Councilman Wesson came in and chose to continue supporting this barrier despite LAFD station protests, ignoring the original community survey, which showed the majority of the community was against it. He ignored a petition after his decision to allow the barrier to stay, and he continued to fight to allow this barrier, which slows down traffic, which slows down emergency response. And he also paid $8,000 of city money to this community to pay for permits to allow this barrier that slows down the traffic of the fire station right next to it. I couldn't believe that this issue became an issue now, and I am here. I was not going to come, but I said I got to come. Now is the time to get you guys on board with this. And there is a lawsuit.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sachs, please.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. Today's Daily Breeze. Record gas prices set off blame game. So I'm waiting to hear from the council's reaction on that. Coroner says pop music star drowned. Whitney Houston was a chronic cocaine user. A chronic cocaine advocate, because we don't want to use the fact that she was abusing it. Another story from Tuesday. Cal State to reduce enrollment next year. Cal State University chief's pay expected to max out. Waiting to hear the council's reaction on that. Cal State students looking to get classes cut. What's the council got to say on that? You got volumes to speak about KFI, which you have no control over, opinionating on what they say on the airways when all you need to do is shut the radio off. Got anything to say about Cal State raising tuition or cutting enrollments, but giving chiefs pay raises, $100,000 more than their previous people in office? Got anything to say about the high price of gas and the profits being made by the oil companies? You got something to say about KFI? Make some noise, Mr. Krikorian. Make some noise. Let's hear some volume. Speaking of noise, item on the agenda from the 20th. Relative to the council appointing councilmen of the 5th and 11th district to the city's representatives on the Exposition Metro Line Construction Authority, because the construction authority is done with working in the 8th and 9th council districts. So how does that explain my favorite councilman, Mr. Reyes, being on the Gold Line Construction Authority, the Foothill Edition? What part of that construction authority is taking place in his district?
Thank you very much. Michael Carry On, Matt Dowd, Zuma Dog.
Yes, Michael Carrion here. Once again, I was asked why am I here complaining about Mr. Huizar and his staff. Well, because there is no Team Huizar. It's Huizar and his staff, period. He came and asked for his vote, and we gave him our vote, and all he spends his time on is bring back Broadway. We have people going and almost getting run over, and his staff doesn't do anything about it. Unless you come here and raise hell, then they get off their seats, their comfortable seats, and they start doing this. Well, I'm fed up with it. Mr. Huizar wants to sit here and clear his name and save face, but he won't come over and talk to me. He always says, well, Mr. Carrion can come talk to me. Mr. Huizar failed to call me twice. He and his staff said they were going to call me. He personally failed to call me twice. Eric Martel said, oh, I didn't say that. I said I'll call you when they call me. And if they don't call me for 6 months, then I won't call you. I told Mr. Huizar when I sat in his office that I needed him to understand that I will not put up with this kind of neglect from his staff. We sat in a room. I explained to him. He agreed. I called him. He failed to return my call again. Yet he sits here and says, oh, Mr. Carrion just wants his minute of fame. Well, Mr. Huizar, I don't want a minute of fame. I will come up here as long as you are sitting in an office, in any office. So either you work with me or you work against me. I will make it my destiny to make your life miserable if you don't work for my community. All I ask for is that he does what he says he was going to do. All I ask for is he does keep his promises. I guess he doesn't know how.
Matt Dowd.
Mr. LaBonge, may I speak, please?
Hold on, please. Hold on, Mr. Dowd. Thank you. Mr. Huizar.
Thank you. For those of you who are watching these meetings for the first time and on television are here, this individual comes up to the podium in every council meeting saying the same remarks, that we don't return calls, that we don't talk to him. He was sitting here since the meeting began. I was over there. He doesn't want to speak. Just putting out there for those of you who are watching this for the first time. And another thing, Mr. Carrion, you prefer to talk like this in front of the public. One thing is that my staff will not stand for your bullying tactics. If you approach them in a professional manner without yelling at them and hanging up on them again, they will not speak to you either. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huizar. Mr. Matt Dowd. Thank you, Mr. Dowd, for your patience.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Mr. Carrion because my councilman thinks everything's a joke too and he doesn't keep his promises. And one of them was, oh, gee, we'll go with what the federal judge says. Well, he gave us a preliminary injunction and knocked out your whole permit and lottery system. So it's the 6-year anniversary of Matt Dowd and Zuma Dog calling Tom LaBonge a dummy. And he has to accept it, but he's not paying attention, so I get away with that. We're the First Amendment people. We've got a federal case against it. And we were right about Occupy, and I want to tell Bernie Parks and Jan Perry, I don't think you're going to win the redistricting lawsuit, and here's why. You're part of a city council. There's 15 people voting. You strenuously put up your case, which may be very valid, and I feel for you on that. But the council voted, and that's what they do. And the court will say that's what they're for, and you have to live with that in the end. So don't waste any more money. Let's just move forward without all the litigation, without all the wasting of the taxpayers' money on stuff that the city council already voted on that may actually be legal now that they've voted. Whereas we have an injunction. And we knocked out the whole dumb system that Tom LaBonge invented, the permit system, LAPD. See, you're not, now look at the speaker cards. Have you seen your speaker cards? Now it says you don't have to provide any of that information. You remember when you cut me off in committee? I'm in the middle of a big, important thing about Venice Beach. He's like, oh, wait a minute. Gee, you didn't put your name and address on the card. And now they put it in big red letters on the top of the speaker card. You don't have to put any of the info. So we were right. And we were right about Occupy, getting them off the land. It looks so good out there now. I want to come in and do my First Amendment that they wouldn't let us do. So we were right, settle the case, and Bill Rosendahl is responsible.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zuma Dog, please.
Yes, happy.
Sergeant, would you please escort the person to be seated so we can get the next speaker? Mr. Dog, please.
Happy anniversary, baby. 6 years since Bill Rosendahl gave you suckers the illegal federal law-breaking 4215 Venice Beach ordinance that brought Zuma Dog, now a historic, political, legendary icon. Thank you. All I had to sit here was stand here, and you fools made me look good. Now, it is kind of chatty in here, and you know what happens. when I catch chattiness. So 6-year anniversary of Zuma Dog due to your federal violation of which we won in federal court. And you can look at video. By the way, Fox 11 News, thank you. City Council, I told you you'd become national laughingstocks over your censorship issue. And if you notice, Fox 11 News, for all your grandstanding and kiss-assing for the Fox 11 cameras, it was the political icon that was used for the footage, along with my good friend Michael Carrion. Now let's talk about something very serious where Zuma Dog draws the line. It's when a council member will stand up on city TV and slander the historic legend prophetic icon. I gave my public comment here yesterday based on information provided to me by Dennis Zine's longtime LAPD motorcycle cop. I don't need to repeat what I said, but I don't need Dennis Zine to pop up, oh boy, Mr. Controller sure lost control as he gave me a lawsuit. He said that I am notorious for telling scandalous, lying statements. That will now have to be proved in a court of law because I found no evidence of that. When I said pension money was at risk, you lost billions. When I said red escrow was shady, FBI investigates. When I said special event fees were wrong, you stopped doing them. When I said everything, it's always right. So Dennis P. Zine will have to prove himself in a court of law of his lying accusations against the icon.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now at this time, Sergeant, shut him down. No, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. This time, Ms. Perry. Call on and recognize Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I need to ask for reconsideration very quickly on item 17 from Wednesday's continuation agenda regarding diversity and tolerance in the media. And I have a substitute resolution coming around to make just a technical amendment, and I hope to have an aye vote.
Great. Has it been circulated? Abak, has it been circulated?
No.
Okay, once it's circulated.
Can I go ahead and do the motion for
vote on reconsideration? Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 1 no.
13 ayes. Okay.
Mr. Roosevelt didn't vote no. I didn't vote no. I didn't do anything. He didn't.
I'm sorry, Mr. Zine?
I did not vote no.
Okay. So, voting clerk, who does such a great job, Anna, thank you for all you do. Make sure Rosendahl is a yes. Thank you so much. Okay. So, vote on consideration. And now
Mr. President, the substitute resolution has now been distributed for council's consideration.
Members, it has been distributed. Ms. Perry?
Yeah.
Are there any cards on this item?
No, I don't know.
No cards?
This is just a technical amendment.
Technical amendment?
Yeah.
Ms. Perry?
Yeah, it's just a technical amendment.
Do you want to read it in?
It's in the body of the motion. It basically makes the encompassing language more expansive. That's about it.
Great. Any questions, council members, at all? No questions? Good. Okay. So let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
12 ayes. Thank you for that correction. Now, comment right now, Mr. John Walsh. Then we go to Van Nuys.
Did you see my email on?
I don't need to wave and shout my arms, pull my teeth out. I'm winning. We're winning. 4 days of this post up, 33,000 people have arrived. 33,000 visitors. Now, hit pieces. Eric Garcetti had a hit piece on Wendy Gruhl. They handed it out at Gruhl's interview over at police headquarters. If you go to my website, you'll see a picture of Eric Garcetti slitting Wendy Gruhl's throat. Okay? Now, yesterday at at MTA, the mayor of the city was banging his gavel saying, shut up, Mr. Walsh. But I won't shut up. Because one of the candidates who is a hopeful for mayor was followed by a private detective hired by another hopeful mayor candidate. They followed him to his love nest, his or her love nest, no names, and then they went around to the media and said, we got this story, dirt on one of these candidates. Our website is the only one that names names. This race for mayor is the dirtiest race in the history of Los Angeles. You know, you could disinter Tom Bradley out and put his skeleton up there and he'd do a better job. If you want to know what's happening in this city, go to HollywoodHighlands.org and find out who the adulterer is, besides the mayor. Who is the adulterer that has changed the candidate? HOLLYWOODHIGHLANDS, 33,000 in 4 days. Come to our website, find out what's really going on. Who is the adulterer?
Van Nuys City Hall, let's call Rick Nightingale and Mr. Candido Flores.
No, come on. That's Candido Maris, sir. Mr. Labange, you know what my name is. You know.
I apologize. I didn't have my glasses on. Start the clock again, Anna.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. Candido Maris, proud resident of the 12th District and a member of the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council, where this morning I spent the morning in Van Nuys Court, Division 101, where we used to have what was called the community court. We have very little of it left. This is something that was brought to us in 2000 by former Councilman Michael Fuhrer, who will be running for city attorney, and we hope that he'll win. This gentleman had vision to see that something that was working in New York and now that works throughout the United States and throughout the world, that can change a community. This is how they changed Times Square. If any of you have watched TV and you've seen what's happened in Times Square, that all took place because of community court. So I'm asking the mayor and the city council to please, let's take a look at the community court that we have in Van Nuys, still what's left of it. And I'm asking because it's something that's, it's a tool that can be used to revitalize, renew, and rebuild a community. So as we move forward, I'm asking the council to please support future endeavors to bring back a full community court to Van Nuys. Thank you, sir, and I appreciate you correcting my name, Candido Maris, proud resident of 12th District. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maris. Is anyone else there in Van Nuys? Richard Nightingale? No, this is Richard, just Richard. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for correcting. There's an issue regarding a city council office. I submitted a Public Records Act request, a written one, and the intern has responded to me in writing that they are not required to respond to illegal Public Records Act requests for questions that are not proper. And I asked what they meant by that when I called under 6253.1 to maybe recast my questions, in which I believe were correct anyway. Their position is, we don't answer questions that we don't want to. I said, who's we? Oh, I can't tell you that. That's attorney-client privilege. I said, oh, that's a very interesting concept. I said, what's the attorney's name? Oh, that's attorney-client privilege. I cited the published appellate decision saying about attorney-client privilege and work product, in which the name of the attorney should be disclosed. There's no privilege on that. It's only on the contents of the transmission or communication. But once again, this intern has refused. I've sent over a media confer letter, and hopefully the council office will respond. But, you know, when you let interns run your office, you're going to buy yourself a problem, especially a constitutional problem. May I suggest what's been happening with Public Records Act lawsuits? People are starting to sue under Civil Code 52.1. That's a civil rights violation because a Public Records Act request is a civil right. It's not always a compel for documents, but it's a civil right. And if this keeps going on, you're going to let interns play lawyers when they're not supposed to. It's just going to be a bigger problem.
Thank you very much. I support interns, but at the same time, if you have a problem, write it to the Los Angeles City Clerk. Interns do a good job at helping in a variety of ways, and city staff as well should be there to obtain. This time, we're going to go into the special meeting, Mr. Clerk. Let's call the special meeting to order.
Very good, sir. We will now recess the regular meeting and go into the special. Alarcon, Buscaino, Cardenas, Englander, Garcetti, Weezer, Carets, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zine, Wesson, 14 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
And let's take item number 16 first.
Mr. President, let's first run through the agenda on the special,
All right,
if that would be okay.
You're in charge.
Items 12 and 13 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Items 12 and 13 public hearings have been held. Council members, any specials on that? 12 and 13 public hearings have been held. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Next item.
Mr. President, items 14 through 16 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Let's vote for consideration on those. Open the roll. Without objection. Close the roll. Here we are.
Very good, sir. We'll do that without objection. That means 14 through...
They're being considered. And I want to take number 16 first. Ms. Perry, if you could speak to your microphone.
Mr. President, pardon me. We do have cards on 14, 15, and 16, sir.
Correct, but I'm asked to take number 16 first. Can I hear you, Ms. Perry? I can't hear you.
Can we take 15 first? It's very short.
But Ms. Perry, I'm going to do that real quick. 15. Do you have any? Three cards for number 15. Arnold Sachs, John Walsh, and Mr. Bonge. Is there a person Bonge here?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. First of all, why this couldn't be considered prior to this meeting, why this couldn't be considered when the first ad hoc committee meetings were first being introduced to have this online ability available. But secondly, and more importantly, from the file 110023 from the ad hoc committee from August 3rd, 2011, relative memorandum of understanding between the City of Los Angeles and the Ann Schultz Entertainment Group setting forth the general terms and parameters for the development of the event center, parking garage, and the LACC new hall. On the council agenda from the 8/17/11, a conflict waiver with Nixon Peabody about the new hall at the convention center, the event center, and the stadium project. And yet today's item on the agenda only mentions the event center, the downtown stadium, and the event center. What about the new hall? What's going on?
Mr. Walt.
John Walsh, point of order. You just voted unanimously on 12 and 13. Mr. Clerk, Garcetti was not at his desk. He is nowhere here. You have him voting for 12 and 13. I'm asking the LA Times. Look, he's not there. I mean, is 1 and 1 3 now? He is not there. 12 and 13. That, I am going to go. Mr. Clerk, is Garcetti there? Yeah. Is Garcetti there? Did he vote for it? Yes. Why did he vote for it?
Mr. But complete your
Okay,
comment.
you asked me. Where was Mr. Garcetti? He voted automatically. Somewhere else in the city. Now, Sennheiser did a story about doing it. You're doing it again. If you want
Mr. President, he's not talking about this item.
Thank you very much, Mr. City Attorney. Please talk to the issue.
Not the issue. Okay. Look at the city clerk. Don't worry, you'll keep your job. Is he still there? HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Wall.
No, I got the pin. I'm going to take 1 minute. I got 3 more seconds. HollywoodHighlands.org. You are garbage.
Thank you. Next speaker. Mr. Bonge was next, then Mr. Dog.
Yeah, the name's La Bong. Just read it off the card. Now you see. See, I was right, wasn't I? Look at all those times Eric Garcetti messed with us for the cards. We were right. Anyway, so we're right about a lot of things. Let's just have that on the record. Here's another one. All right, so Ann Schultz Entertainment Group, AEG from downtown, they're giving us $100,000 so they can set up a computer to take public comments on the proposed downtown stadium and event center project. Now, here's what I want to know when Jan Perry makes this quick item, because I'm worried about that. Oh, this is a quick item, Tom. She fooled you right there. And this is not going to be quick. But I want to know who's running who gets to moderate and who gets to delete, and is this going to be a First Amendment thing? Can I get on there and say what I really want to say? Because I don't trust it, any of it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dog.
Yes, I need to clarify. This is not to receive $100,000. This is to spend $100,000. Now, I hope I'm not taking this out of context. If Ms. Perry will be able to clarify after the treasured icon. After this mayoral candidate is done speaking, the other mayoral candidate, Ms. Perry, may clarify. But the way the icon sees it is that this is to spend $100,000 of city money when we can't even provide accurate fire statistics to provide public safety, only to take public comment for a proposed stadium to nowhere Grand Avenue Project Part 2. We don't even have a football team committed, and other outlying outskirts have a much better shot. And so to think, if we're spending $100,000 only for the computer to take the public comment on the environmental impact review only, and this is only for the public comment on the environmental impact review. Imagine the cost of the boondoggle AEG Stadium of total expense. So in case you're just tuning in on a channel surf, my name's Zuma Dog, legendary, historic, political icon, voice of the people, prophet. And this is about spending also LA mayoral candidate. And after I speak, I will yield to Ms. Perry to clarify if I am off, because I'm off the cuff here. The point is, when the city cannot provide services, they cannot provide fire statistics, they are getting sued for cracks in the sidewalk, they have squandered and pilfered till the FBI had to come here to investigate what the hell's going on. Now we want to spend $100,000, not for anything except the computers to take public comment on a boondoggle stadium of which there's no team demand or anything, and I'm concerned the costs are going to be even more.
Thank you very much to Van Nuys. We're going to Richard and Van Nuys right now. Sergeant, please inform the speaker that he cannot yell like that and break the equipment. Thank you. Richard and Van Nuys.
How dare you tell me I can't speak? Why are you addressing that to me? I just stood up here. Why are you disparaging me like that?
Richard, I'm not talking to you, Richard.
Me, I'm speaking right now.
I'm not talking to you, Richard.
I told you don't interrupt me. Behave yourself. Control yourself. Your bad behavior is not tolerated. Now you stop it. Now the issue at hand, as I tried to address with the clerk's office, is the agenda that has been placed down here does not show item 15. But according to Ms. Isabel, so what? According to the deputy clerk identified as Ms. Isabel, so what if the whole agenda is not printed out for members of the public? I gave her the Brown Act citation where it shall be available for a member of the public. And it's not. There was no attempt in any capacity other than, so, who cares? Then you have the audacity of disparaging me that I was doing something inappropriate, uncivil. How dare you say something like that? You should apologize rather than saying, well, I did it for someone else. You need to be a man and apologize. Make someone whole. Don't use an excuse. What you're trying to do is called tacit, T-A-C-I-T. Then you interrupt me further, and you just want to do everything your way.
Mr. President, he is not talking about item 15.
Thank you very much, Mr. City Attorney. I was waiting for that. Thank you, Richard. Now I call on Ms. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion I introduced allows city planning to accept $100,000 from AEG to purchase a dedicated computer server and data storage unit to receive public comments in electronic format on the environmental impact report for the proposed downtown stadium and event center project. Senate Bill 292 requires city planning to establish an EIR comment and review system in electronic format. This is a special provision for this project due to SB 292, and city planning needs to purchase the additional equipment in order to be in compliance. Now, on December 7th, 2011, the Council adopted Council File 11-0023-S8, which authorized city planning to enter into a supplemental fee agreement with AEG so AEG can compensate the city for resources allocated for all discretionary actions as well as SB 292. So this is not a taxpayer expense. I waived this motion from the ad hoc stadium committee in order to have the computer system in place before the release of the draft EIR, which is targeted for the end of March, early April. City planning will be holding 2 public meetings and 1 hearing during the 45-day review period of the draft EIR. After the 45-day review period, City planning will present to Ad hoc Committee on Stadium the enhanced public participation process due to SB 292 and give an overview of the EIR as well as an overview of the public comments provided. It is necessary to do this through the Ad hoc Committee on Stadium after the review period in order to comply with CEQA. So I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Mr. Garcetti.
It's for after this item.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Alarcon.
Is the Department of Planning here? I don't have a problem with the spirit and intent of the motion. I just want to ask the department a couple of questions. This is to purchase a server?
John Foreman, City Planning Department, correct.
Okay, now, does the department have other servers?
Correct.
What is the percentage of capacity that is currently being used on those other servers?
Again, John Foreman, Planning Department. Our systems person could not be here today, but she has informed me, however, that we're nearly at capacity with our current server. And
so you have one server?
We have one server.
Okay.
And so this would allow us the additional capacity to accommodate this EIR and the public comments that we are required.
Okay, so you're saying that the server that you currently have is approaching maximum capacity.
Correct.
Okay, because there are some servers that are minimum capacity, 7%. We've got them spread all over the city, and we're not utilizing them, I think, in an effective way. But now, this was the legislation specific to it had to be a server, or it just had to have the capacity, or was it relative to the getting the EIR done in a timely fashion?
It was relative to the EIR getting done in a timely fashion.
Okay, so you're saying that you can't get the EIR done in a timely fashion without additional capacity in the server?
It's actually more related to being able to maintain the administrative record concurrently and for providing that public comments be posted for the public to review within 5 days of their receipt. So typically what happens with an EIR, the comments get posted at the close of the comment period. This will keep them online and active throughout the process.
Okay, so the server that you're going to purchase, is that going to be used 100% for this project?
It will.
How much capacity is needed on this service that is going to be purchased to accomplish the task that is required by law?
There will be, my understanding is there will be extra capacity on this server once this EIR is complete, and we've begun talks with AEG on how we handle that excess capacity on the servers.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. There's no other speakers on the queue. Ms. Perry?
This passes. I'd like for it to go forthwith.
An aye vote?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Now we're going to forthwith on this item. Thank you, Mr. Wesson. Next item will be item 16. Yeah, Mr. Garcetti.
I just pressed my button to clarify. I heard everybody who was talking when I was in the restroom and in the back. We can hear back there the votes that happen back there. We clarify that, but I want to put that on the record, please.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Take note of that. Now we're going to call on item number 16. I'm going to ask Mr. Reyes to give us an opening. This is on the special meeting. Mr. Clerk, please read it in.
Mr. President, we are on item 16, and just for clarification, there's a motion 16A, that's motion Reyes-Garcetti, that has been distributed and is now before you for consideration as well.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the council member of the district to speak first.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, one, I want to be very specific as to the motivation and the context of this motion. In the mid-90s, a mixed-use facility was built where you have senior housing on top of a supermarket. At that time, on that intersection, you had an administration building that held the offices of the Unified School District. Since then, a new high school was built and designed where now you have hundreds of young people coming in and out of the school that was never assessed or evaluated given the impact caused by traffic, caused by pedestrian congestion. On that side where this market was built, you have relatively narrow sidewalks compared to what you have across the street. A few years back, we had an elder, a senior, who was struck by a bus on that street. Today, we do have a supermarket who wants to come in. They are entitled by right. But what I don't have is a vehicle or a method by which to assess that impact given the new conditions that's caused by this congestion, this pedestrian flow, which is unsafe. So that is a very real issue. To compound the issue is I no longer have a community redevelopment agency. A CRA had a set of planners that would assess the situation and give us advice and look at how we can mitigate. That no longer exists. I also have a planning department that's been cut by 40%. So those are very real issues. Another layer of concerns is the issue of character. In the amendments that are in front of you, there's a map that isolates a pocket in Chinatown that speaks to the notion of how we preserve the character of Chinatown. Now, this is not unique. We did this before with Alvera Street. In Alvera Street, back in the 80s, we set an overlay that essentially contained and maintained a certain character given the history, the architecture, the flavors of Alvera Street, and we imposed these conditions to preserve that pocket for what you see today. Chinatown, in my eyes, is just as unique. It has the ability to maintain that destination, to continue to generate jobs, jobs that we preciously need, to continue investment. And from my point of view, if we have the ability to make our sidewalks safer, our intersections flow much easier, making sure our elders do not get hit by the cars coming by or a bus jumping the curb, completely tight conditions that are unsafe. If we can have a vehicle to mitigate that, that is what I'm seeking through this ICO. Now, I also have two amendments that essentially exempts and grandfathers the existing business in Chinatown. It excluding existing and new businesses that are less than 20,000 square feet. So we are directly addressing the small and medium-sized businesses, the mom and pops. We're excluding existing businesses currently opening in Chinatown that want to either expand or move. So we are not limiting the kinds of entrepreneurship that allows our business to continue to grow. I am not anti-business. I am pro-business. But these are fundamental issues that I'm asking you to support. Now, as Chair of Plum, I put great weight on how you define your districts. You understand your constituents. You do everything in your power to facilitate the process. But we do have tensions when you have, like in my case, substandard streets, original neighborhoods that were designed to a certain capacity that we have far surpassed today. We never contemplated back when this store was designed to have all of that foot traffic with all those kids coming in and out of that school the way we have today. What I'm asking you is to support me in allowing some discretion, given that I no longer have a CRA. That elderly person was struck by a bus, and that we will make this area more inviting for more business and more jobs, because it'll be safer, more desirable. We will have traffic controls in place if incoming businesses and those who are being impacted, we can work together to monitor that intersection, to have personnel at that intersection, and to prevent the kind of tragedies that I foresee if we allow this to move forward. So we are not stopping any supermarkets from coming into the district. We are not holding back jobs. We're making it safer, and I'm allowing for that discretion, and I ask you for your support. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We have cards for the proposal. James Elmendorf, Chris Tilley, Mr. Green, I believe. And we're going to give 1 minute comment on all cards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, council members. My name is James Elmendorf from the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. I'm here to support the proposal for an interim control ordinance for Chinatown. We're here because we believe that the entrance of a major new retailer, grocery store into Chinatown could impact all the local businesses that exist in Chinatown. There are 4 full-service grocery stores in the community that could close. They're family-owned businesses. There are another 15 to 20 markets. There are a number of pharmacies and a number of bakeries. All of these businesses have signed on to a letter of support asking the council member to move forward with this ICO and to make sure that the community has a voice to determine whether this retailer will be good for the community or bad. Government's responsibility here is to ensure that economic development occurs in a way that benefits the community. I ask all of you to support the motion to allow the council member to move forward in developing an interim control ordinance that will protect Chinatown small businesses and ensure we do not have Walmart destroying the standards of our community and our jobs here in Los Angeles. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris Tilley.
Good morning. My name is Christy Lily Chiv, and I'm 23 years old, and I'm a resident of Chinatown. I'm very involved in my community as a mentor for the Chinatown youth, and my parents are also part of the Chinatown Ethnic Associations. Chinatown is a special place. It is a tight-knit community where my parents and I are able to be surrounded by like-minded folks and able to speak to people in our languages. We also shop at our local Iowa markets, and the Chinatown just gives us a sense of belonging. It makes me very upset that large chains like Walmart are trying to move into our community without respecting the culture of the community that already exists. I can't support a Walmart or any other large chain coming in because they'll do the same. They'll displace my family's friends' businesses and offer dead-end jobs. No matter what Walmart has said in the papers, we are the community and we just don't want your store. I urge the City Council to stand up for Chinatown residents' rights and to vote against the corporate outsiders. I also here have testimonials from other Chinatown youth who are expressing their opposition to Walmart. So do the right thing and vote against.
Thank you very much. Gershwin Green, Jonathan Klein, Chris Shevin.
Hello, City Council. My name is Gershila Green. I'm a current Walmart worker at the Leimert Park, and I'm also currently on disability. I'm here today to voice my concerns about Walmart expanding into a proposed Chinatown site without having workplace standards or respect for the existing stores they already have. Take me for example. I'm a department manager at the Crenshaw and King Walmart facility. I was injured. They had no regards for my injury, and my injury was a direct result to the way they staffed us. I had no support with one of the biggest consumable departments in our store. And right now, I'm on workers' comp, and I struggle just to make ends meet. I was just told that I need to get off of workers' comp, come back to work because they no longer wanted to support me. But once they realized that my injuries were so severe, they rather for me to stay on disability. And all I want to do is make a living for my 2 children and have Walmart do the right thing. I'm a valued employee.
Thank you very much for that. Jonathan Klein.
Good morning, council members. I'm Rabbi Jonathan Klein, Executive Director of Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice. We're a multi-faith organization dedicated to economic and social justice. I come here to support our family-run businesses in cultural neighborhoods here in Los Angeles. I personally live in the Pico Robertson area where if I were to imagine Walmart to enter in, if they were invading my community, that would be devastating. It sends a shiver down my spine hearing about this. Why? Because the thought of Walmart breaking into my neighborhood and displacing markets like Pico Glot or A Lot Market that means so much to my community is deeply disturbing. We are proud of neighborhoods like Chinatown and Little Tokyo and Boyle Heights and Pico Robertson's. LA is blessed by diversity. A community constantly confronting the challenges of assimilation, like the Chinese community, needs to maintain its cultural binds and its ties. I urge you to vote in favor of this ordinance.
Thank you very much. Chris, C-H-E-V-N-S, Chris Shevins, Catherine Paw, and Static. I need help with your last name, Static. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Chung. My family and I own Wonder Bakery for over 25 years, since 1985. And the Chinatown community knows us not just by our pastry and bread dessert, but also they know us by our heavy involvement with the community. We offer donations to Alpine Centers, senior centers, and the community events. Walmart has claimed that small businesses like mine will actually be benefits and sales increase after the stores open. My family and I don't agree. We understand that Walmart has proposed one-stop shopping, meaning customer will buy the groceries, drug, pharmacies, and baked good items there. Our sales in our shops in Chinatown will decline, I believe, because Walmart will offer prices that will undercut us and sell the same products as we do. So we worry about also the rent that will increase because the Walmart pay higher rent than we do. So we want development that will support existing business, not the big chain stores. So we urge the City Council to protect the business and regulate.
Thank you very much. Catherine?
Good morning, council members. My name is Catherine Fan. I'm here to represent my family's grocery store, A Grocery Warehouse. My parents opened their store in Echo Park in 1986, and I've worked there since I was a youth growing up in Chinatown. We have deep roots in the community and a large customer base based on Chinese immigrants. We were alarmed when we heard of the proposed Walmart in the papers a few weeks ago. If Walmart opens in Chinatown, our store and many businesses like ours will certainly close. Walmart is proposing to operate a grocery store about a mile from us that will outcompete our prices. While Walmart will be adding only 65 jobs, our store alone stands to lose over 40 full-time employees. Since we hire from the community, many are low-income Asian immigrants and have limited English skills. Our employees surely will not be on their payroll. Not only will Walmart destroy countless small businesses, it will be destroying livelihoods of hundreds of workers and families in Chinatown. Council members, what do you want your legacy to be? Do you want to be remembered for edging out small businesses and the immigrant community in Chinatown? Please vote yes on the ordinance today. Thank you for your time and consideration.
From I believe the Serrano Market, Satit Dodoramat, Lori Bever, and Michael Calderon.
Good morning, Councilman. My name is Satit Tuamontolat. I am a small business owner and have operated a convenience store here in Chinatown for the past 30 years. I am reading a statement signed here by small business in Chinatown who are here to support of the ordinance protecting Chinatown in spirit. We are against a chain retailer like Walmart coming into our neighborhood because it's treating our very livelihood, business, and would change our community drastically. We ask that our city councilman members please fight on our behalf and vote for an ordinance that would protect our business and the Chinatown way of life in the long run. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Lori, could you pronounce your last name? Thank you.
Revelary. I lived in Lake Elsinore where we had a Walmart, and it was quite interesting. I was a member of the Mormon Church, and they kind of have a Mormon, the greeter thing, and covenant thieves, and different things like that. And frankly, I like shopping there, but I don't know how it would affect. I'm just letting you know. I like shopping there. I got a couple of them. But I heard it was the devil's store when I got to LA. But I know that the people that work there don't like the thieving part because they're associates and their salary, they don't get their kick, you know. You have all that stealing going on. You know, I've seen it walk right out there with TV down the front of their bed. Amazing. But so I have nothing to say about that. But I did want to come and introduce myself and say, hi, I'm Lori, and I'll be back Tuesday when I can talk about magic and Roswell and things like that.
Thank you, Lori, very much. Michael Corleone, thank you.
Are you dangerous, guys? It was me that wouldn't say.
Michael Carrion. I'd like to know where Mr. Reyes was when all these huge apartments were being built, when all the community of Beaudry and Temple were being evicted because they wanted the Belmont High School to go through, when Mr. Weezer said it was negotiable. They just didn't negotiate it when he was sitting on the board. Where was Mr. Reyes when everybody was being evicted for all these multi-million-dollar big properties, getting paid for it? Now Walmart wants to come in, and he wants to be the Good Samaritan. I don't trust Mr. Reyes as far as you can throw a handful of feathers. And I think Walmart should have a right to come in. If you don't like the prices, don't shop there. If you have a base of loyalty, it's about choice. You can't be one person that thinks you have that much power, Mr. Reyes, to stop people from coming in. It's business. You're leaving town, and yet you want to leave a mark saying, I didn't let Walmart come in. Well, Walmart has a right to be here, just like you have a right to shave your head.
All right, here we go right here, directed there. Zoom Dog, John Walsh, Arnold Sachs.
Yes, I've been coming here for 6 years, and I've gone under several hundred of these items. And this is the toughest call in my 6-year history for the community. We have to take this very seriously. So what we have here is, do we let Walmart come in and suck the life out of Chinatown or not? Now, it's not as much of a character issue as I thought. I thought they'd be popping this thing right next to Lucky's or something like that. It is kind of up the hill there by the CVS and the Burger King. So it's not as much of a character issue. But the Walmarts, they don't hire the local. I don't think they're going to be hiring local kids. I think they hire from regional outside the area. And I do feel that based on the public comment that I've heard the testimony, it will cause a lot of outrage in the community. And overall, maybe Chinatown just ain't the place to pop in a Walmart. I am from CD11. I probably wouldn't like it if they popped in a Walmart in the Abbott Kinney area or too close to the Venice stuff. So overall, as LA mayoral candidate, I have to side with Ed Reyes. No on Walmart in Chinatown.
You know, John Walsh blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Find out who the adulterer is. I joined my first union in 1966, okay? We held, when I was working for Raytheon Corporation, we held the first successful strike in the history of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Previously, all the Saudi Arabians who had been involved in the strike were beheaded, and the Americans were thrown out of the country. So, excuse me, that was 1969.
On the issue, John. On the issue, John.
We are people of union people. We don't. You can take Walmart and return it to where it belongs as a fascist state in a fascist country. And 100% for Chinatown kicking Walmart out, just the way Inglewood kicked Walmart out.
Arnold Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. First of all, it'd be nice to get factual a little bit. Inglewood kicked out a Walmart supercenter. This is not a Walmart supercenter. Pedestrian only, an elderly pedestrian got run over. What about the pedestrians on Beverly Boulevard, Mr. Reyes? The ones that got run over, the ones they did the story on by Michael Hitzlick, did a story about the two kids and the mom, and you couldn't get funds to change the speed limit on Beverly Boulevard. They don't count. No CRA? What about AB 1290 funds? 40% cut in planning department, but that's been on for years. Target was just authorized. And then the New Alliance in last week's Downtown News mentioned there's a decades-old requirement that grocery stores have to have 200 jobs, union-backed organization. And I'm thinking, well, the Ralphs in downtown LA doesn't have 200 jobs? Come on, get some facts out.
Thank you very much. Larry Zhang and Kim Benjamin, please.
My name is Larry Zhang. I represent the Los Angeles Chinatown Corporation. We own and operate the Central Plaza for the community of Chinatown. I'm here to say that I am displeased with all the outside interference. I believe that Councilman Reyes has our best interests. I believe that Chinatown should determine their own destiny. We, the people of Chinatown that live there, that work there, their own property there, should decide who comes into Chinatown. I object to all these outside interferences. Where were they when Chinatown needed help? Councilman Reyes was there. The BID, Councilman Reyes, and the community should decide who comes into Chinatown. Otherwise, we would lose Chinatown like we did 80 years ago.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hello. Good morning, Councilman, President, Council members. My name is Kim Benjamin, and I am the president of the Historic and Cultural Neighborhood Council, in which this ICO, as presented this morning, would be affected. I'm also the president of the Chinatown Business Improvement District, which is in the core of the very area within the map that you have before you that comes with the 16A as presented this morning. I'm here to speak specifically to the ICO as presented, the board of the BID, Business Improvement District, which has been in place for nearly 12 years, has already voted on this matter as of yesterday, and we voted unanimously to support this presentation you have in front of you here. And we hope that you will do the same. Chinatown is a diverse community. We are not a community that holds our hand up and says no to anyone coming into our community, but this ICO as presented addresses the interests of the Business Improvement District and that of the Historic and Cultural Neighborhood Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I have the cards that are marked that are against this proposal. I'd like to call on Nick Ung, George Yu, Felicia Brown, Sarah Sheehy, Gary Tobin,
Good morning, council members. Councilmember Ed Reyes. My name is Nikki Ung, and I'm the Executive Director of the Chinese Chamber of Commerce of Los Angeles. I didn't really quite prepare a speech today, but I did want to encourage that the council members all hear the voices of the community. And we are in support of the Walmart. We feel that this will drive in a lot of foot traffic into Chinatown and bring in major retailers that can help benefit the community. Please hear the voice of the community directly affected by this and not the outsiders. The loudest voice, as I've told Councilmember Garcetti, the loudest voice is not the voice of the majority. So please consider that when you make your decision today. Thank you so much, and thank you, Councilmember Ed Reyes, for all your support.
Good morning. My name is George Yu. I'm going to take off my Chinatown BID hat and represent Far East Plaza on behalf of our 30 mom and pop businesses. We never wanted to make Chinatown the battleground, okay? And all of the outside interest and the special interest that's making it this way is creating, real difficulties for all of us. However, there's over 600 signatures right here from Chinatown residents, or 95% of them residents, that actually live in Chinatown and wants this Walmart at this location that was built for a market almost 22 years ago. So please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Brown.
Good morning. My name is Felicia Brown, and I'm here representing the West Angeles Community Development Corporation. The West Angeles Community Development Corporation is in support of increased economic development and bringing much-needed jobs to the community. We truly believe that bringing large retailers to the community will accomplish those goals. Our goal is to raise concerns that suggest the policy could have negative impacts on economic development. The West Angeles Community Development Corporation is working with dozens of retailers to support the redevelopment of neighborhoods and bring entry-level jobs to urban centers. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Sheehy with the California Grocers Association. The California Grocers Association represents a mix of retailers, including larger chains, smaller chains consisting of 10 or less stores, and independent stores, although Walmart is not a member. All of these types of retailers provide a service to the community by providing access to healthy food, investing in the community, and providing jobs to local constituents. Our members take pride in the services they provide. And as we're all working together to improve food deserts and increase access to low-cost, healthy food for all communities, it makes no sense to ban grocery stores, since many of them are a type of chain that would qualify as a formula retail use as defined in this motion. This is a precedent-setting motion that only further disincentivizes grocery store development. If this happens here, who's to say it won't happen in downtown, South LA, or any other community within city limits? This motion seeks to unravel the work we've all been doing by proving that grocery stores are not welcome in certain communities. We urge you to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave, also not. Wen Yang Chu, VC Zhao. Suzuki Chow, Carol Schatz. You got to identify yourself as you come to the podium. Thank you.
Good morning, councils. I'm here to assure.
We're going to get a microphone. Kenny, we get a mic for him.
我姓楚，叫韦阳，我是赣南公寓住户之一。住户。
It's on. Checking. This gentleman is the local resident above the Walmart Center that was going to be open, the senior center right up there. So he's want to voice his opinions a little bit.
And state his name for the record.
你的名字？
韦阳。
韦阳。可以说。
也是赣南公寓的住户协会的会长。
He's the chairman representative for the senior center homes right there.
我代表赣南公寓全体老人，全力支持沃尔玛在我们赣南公寓楼底下开公寓。
He said he represents the entire senior home center seniors in support of the Walmart, which is going to be open right under their building.
赣南公寓新建的时候，就向政府申請有超市設備。
He said that when the building was established, they were informed that there will be a retail store which is going to be open until they still haven't exist yet.
谢谢。
Thank you.
谢谢。
谢谢。
Thank you.
My name is Suki Cao. I live in Grand Plaza. This is my association. 今日我喺度咧，代表一班老人家喺度咧懇請嘅要求，Walmart 咧喺我哋樓下嚟開，因為我哋個 building 開始建嘅時候咧，底層就係 market 嘅，係準備做 market 嘅，配備有60個停車位，係專門俾 market 嘅。咁樣我哋已經等咗20年啦。我哋呢個大廈咧有400幾嘅老人。多數係80歲以上嘅，推輪椅嘅，呢啲嘅，唔能夠去遠。
Suzuki, speak to the chair.
唔能夠去好遠，所以我哋連 Chinatown 都去唔到嘅，好多人啊。咁我哋要食到新鮮嘅蔬果、牛奶呢，好困難。我哋嘅仔女有啲喺外州，有啲好忙，都唔能夠幫。
Shay, translate.
Hello. She's here to represent the many elderly residents of the area, saying that she's in support of the opening of Walmart. She mentioned that there are a lot of elderlies who are, even for them, it's difficult to access local stores of Chinatown because it's a certain distance. A lot of them are over the age of 80, and they have either wheelchairs or incapability to go to these places. So she's strongly pleading that you guys will support the opening of Walmart.
Shay, that completes your time. Translate that back. Next speaker, Bitsy Zhao.
Hi, my name is Queen Gering. I come in here, all my Berlin, all senior people. Some people can walk, has to use a wheel. I before Los Angeles, take care of young people, cross the street has school. There you got don't take care of all people. I think soon you got have to take care of all people, yes? We government take care of all people, everything good. So some police, China being here, make a business, new. And how can one has America? No can do has a Walmart coming out of Berlin here. Thank you. I'm just, okay.
Shay, we got everybody there. Let me call the next set of cards.
你講個名先。
周波。
你講我聽我名係。
周波。
Her name is Zhou.
Hello.
尊敬的市长先生和先生们，你们好。是个普通的，照顾爸爸都80多了。就是我们在那个 Chinatown 是住了，爸爸妈妈是住了20多年了。
She said that her family's been living there for 20 years, and
我们很赞成有些新变
her
化。
parents are very old now, and they're very in supportive of the Walmart opening.
喜欢散步。
Their parents likes to hike and walk, so that's a good location to go to.
那个沃尔玛也很，我们对他印象很好的。沃尔玛，它那个超市很干净的。
And they believe that by the clean facility is going to be good for them.
我们在中国，我们洛阳也有。
They heard a lot about Walmarts in other their own countries as well.
Say Shay, very good, very nice scarf, Tiller.
你的那个金好很好看。
Okay, Shay. All right, next speakers at this time, I'd like to call on Dr. Williams, Sharon Lowe, King Gunring.
Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council board member. We're for Chinatown, but we're also against this particular proposal as it is stated right now because it's not enough. There are many ethnic shopping areas within our community. We have one of the most diverse communities in the United States, and we should be protecting the small businesses in all of those, not only in Chinatown. And by the way, one person mentioned this is the second time that we may destroy Chinatown. The first time was under Union Station. Gone. They relocated it. Why? Because somebody needed the property, the railroads. Now, please make this interim control ordinance for the entire city of Los Angeles. Let's focus on our small businesses in ethnic areas.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you.
Sharon Lowe.
Good morning, members of the council. As you know, I'm a long-standing advocate on behalf of community participation in the process. I stand here in a very unique position today as an environmental justice attorney in opposition to an ICO that only affects the Chinatown community. I ask you to reconsider. I ask the motion makers, two of whom I respect very much, to withdraw this and receive and file, and to collaborate with our communities. I concur with the preceding speakers that we have numerous historic cultural neighborhoods, diverse. We have numerous HPOZs. Why not apply this citywide? San Francisco has a precedent, yes, and it applies to all of their neighborhood commercial districts, not just one community. We know the impact of exclusion. Our community knows it too well. We know the impacts of restrictions on the Chinese businesses. Please don't repeat history.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Carol Schatz, Doug Alstonot, Ken Kwang Goering. Thank you, Carol Schatz.
Carol Schatz, President of Central City Association. This is not a land use issue. This site was entitled for a grocery store for 20 years. Neither a union nor non-union grocery store chose to go into the site. You have a number of senior citizens living above. You can see what the benefit would be to them. There is no other grocery store for 30 or 40 blocks. This is a food desert. Even with the amendments, it's a dangerous precedent. It's overbroad, and it create a precedent citywide. There has been no process. It's been shoved through without any input from the community, and none of you would ever think about shoving through an ICO that related to a unique neighborhood in your district without input from the community. This does not work. Don't do this. Thanks.
Good morning, council members. My name is Doug Arsenault of the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. We represent more than 370 businesses in the city that have created over 100,000 jobs. VICA is deeply concerned by the precedent that is set by this motion, telling large retailers that Los Angeles is not interested in your business, not interested in investment. Our city is closed for business, a message which will resonate to the San Fernando Valley and hinder our ability to thrive. The council should be encouraging investment, not placing new roadblocks, as this body has no place to choose what stores are acceptable for your constituents. Our city needs more investment, more jobs, and more opportunities, not limitations that will deprive Angelenos of their right to choice. We call upon you to oppose this motion and ensure that businesses that are willing to invest in our city can do so and are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Grace Yu. And I believe BC Zhao, Gary Tobin. Gary, you're called too. I called you earlier. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the council. My name is Gary Tobin. I'm the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. Our members and thousands of businesses in Los Angeles are vehemently opposed to this motion. The action you are considering today is a lot bigger than Walmart, and it's a lot bigger than Chinatown. This motion is about every business in Los Angeles, it's about every property owner in Los Angeles, and it's about every consumer in every neighborhood in Los Angeles. This motion will send a chilling message to all businesses, large and small, in Los Angeles. It doesn't make any difference where you are in your process and whether you have followed all the rules. Somebody can yank it out from under you, even if you followed every single rule. That is not what built the economy of our nation. We need to allow businesses who follow the rules to join our community and invest in jobs and tax base.
Thank you very much. Grace Yu.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Grace Yu, and I'm coming here to you as a resident and a long-time voter who votes every single election. I want you to understand that the community in Chinatown wants to do what it wants to do. It doesn't want you to come out and say things like, this is the way it has to be. They have their own voice. Just like the Korean community wants to be heard and have our voices heard, the Chinatown community wants to come and have its voices heard. You're helping citizens decide to vote more, so perhaps this is good. But what you're doing is not listening to residents who say we need a grocery store in our building. You're not listening to all the wonderful aspects that come in with this new store. Really, if this store wasn't Walmart, if it were Target, would you be doing this? Are you looking at the stats? They've got great stats. They bring in real jobs with real pay.
Thank you very much. Hey, no applause or no clapping. Just enjoy the beautiful council chambers. Stephanie Schaefer.
Good morning, Council and Council Member Reyes. My name is Stephanie Schaefer. I'm General Counsel for Imperial Toy Company, and we are a local business here and throughout the United States. I'm here to speak on behalf of this ordinance being opposed and in favor of Walmart coming into this community. Not too long ago, Council Member Reyes supported another program called the Chinatown Gateway Project, and it included 20,000 square feet of retail space. And the justification, I believe, for Councilmember Reyes was that it would eliminate a long-standing, underutilized parking lot, much like the building at issue here, that hasn't been occupied or appropriately utilized, and also that it would bring about jobs. This is a very similar situation. He's right. The conditions in the area have changed, but a pedestrian can be hit anywhere. A car accident can happen anywhere. Thank you.
Wayne Katursky in Van Nuys, California, Van Nuys City Hall.
Yes, a new grocery store. Last time they had a new grocery store was over by Staples Center near 9th Street, Ralph's, and everybody said at one time the world would end if Ralph's came into the neighborhood. When it opened, it's an economic miracle what's happened in the 6 blocks around it. So the bottom line is what do these seniors want to pay for things like prescriptions and toiletries and things that they need? Do they want to pay $6 for a roll of toilet paper? Do they want Walmart prices? So that's what it's about. It's about choice. So if Walmart's nice enough to come in, build a brand new shiny store, do it. But the thing is that you have to listen to the people for once. So go ahead and give them their store. Thank you.
Okay, that completes the public comment. Mr. Clerk, we have one speaker. I didn't see your card, but Mr. Dow, you can speak 1 minute. I did not see your card.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, once again, they're trying to stifle it. But let me say, I want to make a general comment about this. This is a global problem, and you need to be talking to Obama, because here's what they do in America. It's a corporate world now. They're building all the shares. Walmart's a big company. It's all your homies in China they send all the jobs to, and they build all the technology. So as long as you get on the technology train and you're on Facebook, and then they'll change the operating system, but you're already hooked. So you got to get the next phone, and you got to get the next system. And as long as they're shipping this stuff out of China, and the city of Los Angeles has a port called the Port of Los Angeles, and they ship containers full of stuff to Walmarts all over America. And that's what they're doing. So then you're never going to stop them until you stop buying the technology. But everybody's hooked. Google, that's why Apple's going through the roof. The currency's getting devalued because they're buying back all the toxic debt, and they're investing it in the shares. So buy shares.
Thank you very much.
Get on the train.
Thank you. Mr. Zine is our only speaker on the queue now. Mr. Zine.
For the Planning Department, can they come forward, please? Mr. Reyes has been the chairman of Plum for, I believe, 10 years, and I have great respect for him, and I served on Plum for a period of time. While we want to encourage business, we want to encourage the opportunity for people to have employment, the amendment that's been placed forward, how will that impact this particular project? Because I don't see this amendment as something negative, what's being asked. I think it looks in a positive vein, and I want to support my colleague, but I want to make sure that we understand the particular situation regarding it, because I don't think anyone in this council is against people working and against business being productive. And I understand that the area has changed, and I understand this amendment has significant impact on this, and I just want to make sure from the perspective of the Planning Department where we're going with it.
Thank you. Kevin Keller, City Planning Department. I am the senior planner for the Policy Division, which includes the Central City North Community Plan, which includes Chinatown. We are here participating. Our division would be preparing the interim control ordinance if the motion moves forward. And so I can just, scanning at the amendment would be to exclude new businesses that are less than 20,000 square feet and exclude existing businesses currently operating in Chinatown that would like to expand or move, and then slightly revises the boundaries. So the motion for our division would be based on the council input. We would go and prepare the interim control ordinance. In terms of exact permitting implications for proposed development, I can't speak to that. In terms of the Planning Department, I can't speak to that level of involvement because, again, the motion in front of us is to return and prepare a interim control ordinance outlined in this impact.
What stage is the particular development at now? The proposed development, what stage is it at?
Again, the motion in front of us doesn't mention a particular development. There may be other departments who could provide a status update on the permitting there. My impression is, as the policy planner, there is not a current entitlement in front of the Planning Department for this, the development that's been spoken about today. So there is no entitlement in front of the Planning Department on that issue.
At this particular time.
Yeah, Mr. City Attorney, for direction.
Yeah, this is about interim control ordinance, not about any one project.
I'm looking at the amendment and see how the amendment applies. If Building Safety can come forward, maybe Building Safety has some answers in this arena.
Mr. Zine, would you be so courteous to push your button again? You're the only one on the queue, so
Mr. LeBon,
come right back up. Thank you very much.
I'm pushing it. It's not going anywhere.
You're on.
Thank you, Mr. LeBon.
Good morning. I'm Bud Overham, General Manager of the Building and Safety Department.
Can you respond to that, how this amendment affects, this proposed amendment affects this particular situation in this area?
This particular, and I heard the city attorney saying we're not talking about this particular project, but the
particular amendment, not the project, but the amendment.
How the amendment affects this project.
Right.
Yeah, the permits for this project were issued yesterday. This project is moving forward. This ordinance would not have any immediate impact on this project.
Okay, so the conditions that are already established have already been established and approved and permits issued, etc.
Yes, sir. This building, as the councilman mentioned, the building was built 20 years ago. It was designed and built as a grocery store. It was a CRA, a redevelopment agency project, senior citizen housing above, retail on the ground floor. It was designed and built as a grocery store. The CRA was originally in contract with Albertsons for a grocery store. The Albertsons fell out of contract. The grocery store site has sat vacant now for 20 years, but it is and always has been a grocery store, designed and built as a grocery store. The only thing that was before us was tenant improvements. They came in probably in November and started processing permits to bring in the tenant improvements, to bring in the shelves and the refrigeration unit. They secured those permits. I haven't driven by there today, but for all I know, they might be under construction.
So when it comes to the situation regarding the school and the other factors, that was not played into this at all?
Now, again, I don't want to play tag, but that would go back to the planning department. The issue that was in front of us was the tenant improvements, and we issued permits.
Okay, thank you. And that's already been taken care of. That's already done. So the other issues that Mr. Reyes brought up.
Yeah, again, and Kevin Keller with City Planning. In this issue, in this area, in this time, there is no special overlay district or specific plan or additional guidance. So there is nothing that triggers planning department review of some of the elements that were talked about. So again, I'm not speaking on that exact project because I don't have experience with that. But the motion would be to have us prepare some of these materials, I believe.
And what Mr. Reyes is calling for, since the situation has changed, to have this review so we can make sure that traffic and other situations are affected in a positive fashion, but not to have any direct impact on what's already been planned by Building and Safety.
Again, I can't speak to anything from Building and Safety, but correct, we would be bringing back proposed regulations as part of an interim control. If the interim control is passed, it would provide time for the planning department to actually prepare those more detailed regulations as well.
Which maybe we could have done before if we were ahead of the curve, but now we're behind the curve. So basically what we want to do, Mr. Budd, your situation wouldn't change, but then we'd be able to find out if we have to make some modifications, but it would not impact what is currently proposed at that site. That's my understanding?
Yes, sir. That's my
so
understanding also.
we would clarify some of the issues and the concerns and problems that Mr. Reyes has for that particular district, but not scrub the particular position that's before us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zine.
Thank you.
Mr. Koretz. Mr. Paul Koretz.
Mr. Chair, I thought I asked to be taken off the queue.
You did,
so please
and it
do
came
that.
back on, and I didn't want to deny that. It did come. Mr. Parks, please.
Thank you. But could you go over that again? You're saying that the permits have been pulled and this existing site that's been by right for 23 years is not going to be affected?
That's correct. Unless there's some other action, the permits have been properly issued. They maybe have started construction. If not, they could start construction. This project is moving forward.
Okay. All right. Then let me ask the planning department. Then this motion today, what would be the purpose? Is asking for ICO in the future?
Again, Kevin Keller, City Planning. Again, the motion is before the council. If the motion was passed, it would instruct the planning department, working with the city attorney, to prepare an interim control ordinance for projects as outlined in the motion of an interim control ordinance to allow us to prepare a more robust plan addressing these issues.
Okay. Would that be outside of the current community plan process?
It's we are the community planners for that area. There is not currently an ongoing Central City North community plan process right now, so it would be something that we'd have to study.
Okay. And then where would the community input regarding the ICO come about?
The exact adoption of the ICO, I would have to defer to the city attorney on that, but in terms of the community planning elements, there would be additional, during that interim control period, there'd be additional workshops and community outreach to help make sure we're informed.
Where would the community get their input about the initial ICO? Would that be in a meeting at Planning Commission? Would that be a community meeting? I'm trying to find out where, because a number of people have expressed a concern that they've been.
And I would probably want to make sure the city attorney could weigh in on that process as well. But for interim control ordinances we've done in the past, we have taken that to our planning commission. We have also taken it to the city council. So that's one of the arenas available.
Would I be concerned if you've been directed to do an ordinance that brings it directly back without community involvement?
So the interim control ordinance has a more streamlined process based on its urgency, but it would not preclude the full process occurring during that interim period. Okay. But my understanding is that the interim control ordinance, one of the venues we've used in the past, takes it to the Planning Commission and the City Council, although I'd want to make sure the City Attorney weighed in on the exact proposal in front of us.
And then also, would the ICO cover many of the traffic concerns that Mr. Reyes talked about in his opening comments?
The interim control ordinance is normally fairly narrow, that it would allow us to, and again, to prohibit issuance of certain permits that might impact those kind of arenas while we study those issues in more detail. So the study would definitely look at all of those issues, but the interim control ordinance is really a chance to hit pause in a neighborhood and restrict some permit activity to allow the planning department to study it more fully.
But your overall project would cover the traffic concerns and the traffic impacts?
As outlined here, that would be something that we would be looking at, correct?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Weezar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, this is certainly news. The discussion and the public comment and the discussions I was having with people, we weren't aware that the permits have actually been issued, and so for a project that was raised in the commentary, so anything in this ICO does not impact that project. That's what the answer is?
The answer, yes, sir. The answer is the permits for this particular project were issued. They've been in, the building was built as a grocery store 20 years ago. The only permits that were pending before us were interior tenant improvements, shelves, refrigeration units, and they have been going through the process since November to obtain those permits. They've retained them over January, February. I think they pulled the last permits yesterday. So they have done all of the work they need to do for the interior tenant improvements.
Okay. So much of 90% of the discussion today is about really the ICO then, and a local council member wishes to, along with their community, to talk with their community and find out what direction they want to go with the ICO. This comes back, so there's some opportunities for those discussions to take place. As I approach this issue, I was approaching it from another angle as well, in that irrespective if it's this project or any other project, there are some food deserts in our city that we are desperately looking for new supermarkets to go in to get fresh produce in there. I have a community like Boa Heights that we've closed down supermarkets through our own eminent domain with construction of the Gold Line and other improvements that we are desperately looking for supermarkets to go there. And irrespective of whether it's this one or any else, one thing we do need to do is to welcome those supermarkets in local areas that need fresh produce. And also, as we, well, I'll leave it at that for now, but local council member wants to do an ICO for their area. The way this city council, this city works, a lot of deference is paid on land use issues to the local council member, but it seems like 90% of the discussion we had today should be focused on that ICO, it seems.
And just for the record, this item is about the ICO, not any particular project.
Very good. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I've struggled with this a little bit because I think there are a couple of issues that we're talking about here. That much of the public comment involved one particular business going into one particular location. Mr. Reyes addressed that and the traffic concerns and so on with regard to that particular business. But there is the broader issue of protection of Chinatown. And I separate those two issues, and it turns out that the facts of the matter are that those are separate issues now apparently as well because of the issuance of permits for this particular business. I will say I had my son with me last week, as you all saw, and we went over to Chinatown for lunch. And I took him to the same places that I went to when I was a little kid. And it reminded me of what a special treasure this neighborhood is for all of Los Angeles. It's a place that has retained its character, that does have the same ambiance, that has the tourist appeal that it has for many years. And I think that's important, and it's important that we protect that. On the other hand, I'm also concerned about some of the precedential issues that some speakers have raised, and particularly the issue of changing the rules on businesses at the last minute. I just think that is a situation that as a council, we shouldn't fall into the mistake, I think, of going through processes that change the rules at the last minute. As it turns out, that isn't the case here because the permits have already been issued for the particular business, so it shouldn't be an issue where somebody is prejudiced at the last minute. They're probably setting up their shelves right now as we're talking about this, so that seems to not be as big a concern. What I would ask is, and I guess this is dovetailing a bit on Mr. Parks's questions. We've heard representatives from this community on both sides of this issue who've come out. We've heard the bid on one side, representatives of the business, other representatives of the business community on the other side of this issue. And I know Mr. Reyes does yeoman's work to try to reach out to the community, particularly in Chinatown, and try to encompass as much of their input as possible. I would like to suggest two things. If this is going to advance forward, I would like to suggest, one, that the proposed ordinance encompass the input of the community, and particularly the neighborhood council for the impacted area, and two, that there, when it comes back to council, that there be an economic analysis associated with this. And Mr. Reyes, I'm not sure exactly how we would structure this, but I think it's important because we've heard about people very concerned about the economic impacts on both sides of this issue. Some existing small businesses who are concerned about being hurt by this, other small businesses who are concerned about the impact of having chain retailers come in and put them out of business. I think it's important that before we act as a council, we really have a better understanding of what will be the likely impact of an ICO like this. And we can't really make that assessment because we don't have an ordinance before us now. We don't know what its terms will be. We don't know how restrictive it will be. We don't even know what the final shape of this will be. So I think when this, if we're going to move forward with this today, when it comes back, we need to have that degree of greater community input, and we need to have a real economic analysis that suggests whether this is going to help existing businesses or hurt existing businesses to have an ICO. And if Mr. Reyes, if you would accept those suggestions as friendly amendments, then I think in that case I would be supportive of having the council member who represents this district be able to have the ability to work on an ICO that encompasses those concerns, encompasses the actual economic impacts, and yet still doesn't pull the rug out from under anybody, because we have already established that this particular retailer that some were concerned about is going to be moving forward with or without this ICO right now.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Mr. Alarcon.
I actually wanted to focus my comments on the economic impact implications as well. I thought Mr. Garcetti had introduced a motion to establish an office on economic impact, and this is economic analysis. And this is the exact kind of situation where that would be most appropriate. And so I'm wondering what happened to that. So the office exists, but is it doing studies on this? Well, yeah, I think they should do a study on this. So I would move that if okay, we'll make it a friendly amendment. I move that amendment then.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes, to close.
Yeah. This economic analysis that we're discussing, the friendly amendments, I see that as relevant to the permanent ordinance. On interim, I'd like to move on that as process dictates. And colleagues, nothing is being snuck in. This is going to have its fair review, open process, through commission, through committee. It'll come back to council. So everyone will be involved in this discussion, and that is the way it should be. Second, this is about process. And with all due respect to Mr. Tobin, I think it is more inviting for investors and the ability to create more jobs when you have sidewalks and intersections that are safe and inviting, where more businesses will find it desirable to be there. Today, I don't have that toolbox, if you will, with CRA gone, without any existing tools to oversee impacts. Anything can come in that's entitled, as what happened in this instance. So when you raise the flag of concern because you have hundreds and hundreds of youngsters coming into this intersection, into this neighborhood, in the middle of a major city that has city-wide traffic patterns, regional-wide traffic patterns coming in, there is a reason and a cause for concern. And that is our discretion, and I'm trying to do my best to make sure we don't lose the character, the uniqueness, the destination that is Chinatown today, and address those issues that speak to safer sidewalks, safer streets for the seniors, the students, and anyone who wants to come in as tourists. These are positives. Lastly, I find out that building safety processed the permits yesterday at 4:30. So this is happening now. we have 3 new high schools within 5 blocks in this area with no real tools to address that impact in a direct way. We talk about parking, congestion. We have statistics that will be displayed during the process where we're going to show that seniors and cars running into and hitting seniors are at a high proportion in this area. In my 20 years working in Chinatown at my community meetings, that is what I hear. How do we make our streets safer? Where do we create parking so that we can have more tourism and more business? And that's the job that's in front of us. So I ask for an aye vote. This will be transparent. This is not what has been said in the press, and I don't want to do policy by press. I'm not sneaking this in. That's not what this is about, but environments are created, and I want to stay focused on the real facts and the issues at hand. Thank you.
Mr. Reyes, thank you. Mr. Kokori, you had a question?
Yeah, it is actually a question, Mr. President. Sorry, Mr. Reyes, to speak now, but just as a matter of process, so that everyone's clear, because this is a kind of a daunting name, interim control ordinance. What we're voting on today is a motion requesting that such an ordinance be drafted by the city attorney. That ordinance would have to come to the Planning Commission first, right? Receive the recommendations of the Planning Department, would have to come back before the Plum Committee, then to this Council for multiple readings. And as we've discussed it today, it will also have to encompass the input of the community and an economic analysis. So what's happening today is not something that's going to cause any immediate impact on anyone in Chinatown, let alone this particular retailer. Correct?
Yeah, Kevin Keller, City Planning. This is a motion initiating that process, so that's correct. The actual interim control ordinance would have to return back to the City Council for final approval. So this
where we
instructs
will
us
have
to get
abundant additional opportunity to shape, to mold it according to the input that we get from the community, according to the economic analysis and so forth. Correct?
That's correct. The interim control ordinance, and we'd have to bring that back, but the interim control ordinance brings that back to the commission, goes to our commission, comes back to the council, gets adopted, then takes effect, allowing us to do a full and complete study during that interim period. So correct.
Thank you.
A clarification for the city attorney.
Just for clarification, it's the planning department that prepares the ICO with the assistance of the city attorney.
Thank you very much. Mr. Weezar.
Thank you very much, colleagues. And just a broader picture again, we got a report this past year, and whether it's the supposed retailer here or not, that shows the leakage of our sales tax by our city being unable to attract retailers to our city and the great impact that's had on our revenue. And we've got to find better ways. And I know this full well because I'm next to Alhambra, South Pasadena, and you see a lot of retail on those borderlines taking our residents to go out there and spend their dollars there. It's a real issue. We've got to report how much of an impact that is on our city. Now, whether it's this issue or any else, we got to keep that in mind as we move forward and make policy for the city. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Weezar. There's no other speakers on the queue, so Mr. Clerk, let's open the roll with the friendly amendments.
Very good, Mr. President. For clarification, we do still have we have item 16, 16A, and a friendly amendment to request the Office of Economic Analysis to review this matter as well. Correct, on the permanent ordinance.
Thank you.
We do have Mr. Krikorian's request as well that would request require a greater degree of community impact as well as a greater degree of economic analysis as well.
It is friendly.
Exactly.
It is friendly. Thank you.
So we should only have one vote.
Correct. Correct, as amended.
Okay.
On the permanent ordinance, as Mr. Reyes
Clerk, you have it clear.
Yes, sir.
So, members, are we ready to open the roll? Close the roll? Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you very much. Next item.
Mr. President, that brings us to item 14, called Special for Cards.
14.
Hey, Alan, We're still in a special meeting deal.
This is the last item for the special.
So we dealt with the other one. Okay. No. Yeah, I get it. But
Thank you for your attendance at this meeting today as we continue our meeting.
I think we're going to call him in. Something there, right? Really think? This is a big system.
Matt Dowd, Zuma Dog, John Walsh.
Yes, this is Zuma Dog, and my qualifications are 2013 candidate for L.A. mayor. So is somebody, what? So it's, I better start over again. I heard we had audio problems. The city already having a trouble functioning in budget cuts, of which will be addressed here. My qualifications are 2013 L.A. mayoral candidate, and I've been paying close attention to CAO Miguel Santana here in these council chambers and in committee meetings.
Mr. President, he hasn't talked about 14
Hey,
yet.
bro.
Thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Zuma Dog.
Okay.
City Attorney, hold his clock.
Hold the clock. Okay, go ahead. Hold
Speak
the
to
clock.
the issue.
Yes.
Continue.
I'm not sure if you people realize this is a CAO issue, Miguel Santana. So I'm saying, as a mayoral candidate, I'm basing my opinion on what Miguel Santana said, and I guess I'll have to explain it to everybody. And also Controller Wendy Gruhl. Controller Wendy Gruhl also said Mikla. So in case these dummies must not realize, that's the city's credit card. And I'm told that we're not supposed to be using the city's credit card anymore, because the city's going bankrupt and they squandered all the money in a fraud, waste, abuse, pilfer scheme that ended up with the FBI having to get involved. So due to the fact that through the fraud, waste, and abuse of this council, the LA mayoral candidate political icon says you're not getting to spend any more money on the credit card because you're a bunch of F students with F credit and F you. So no on this, no on spending, and Tom Labad's look at him getting all like a little puppy dog when somebody comes to the door every time. He's got to get ready.
Mr. President, he is
Sergeant,
not
he's
talking
disrupting
about this
the meeting.
Am I disrupting?
Yes, you are right now. Continue. Thank you. Please sit down. Sergeant, thank him for doing that. All right. Hey, outside, you disrupted the meeting. Please note and filed. He is dismissed for 30 days.
No, he is not.
Mr. President.
City Attorney overruled me.
President.
You're dismissed for the rest of the day.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
No.
Mr. President.
Hold on a second, please.
Mr. President, for the record.
Disrupting the meeting.
Mr. President.
Mr. City Attorney, please.
For the record.
For the record, Mr. City Attorney, please take back.
He is being disruptive.
The loud, disruptive
We ask that he be removed for the remainder of this
person.
council session.
Thank you.
Sergeant Arms, remove him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Matt Dowd.
All right, thank you. That's what happens when you drag out the issues and, the medication wears off, I would imagine. But yeah, you're violating rights, and like the attorney said, he goes, ban him. No, yes he is. No, he isn't. You don't even know what you're doing, so I'm not sure we should be in favor of this one. See, Mikla bonds, somebody has to pay it back. And here's my general comment on this. All right. I don't want people to forget when the mayoral elections come around, who was in the city council running for mayor now, who was part of the budget crisis that we had in the city for 2 or 3 years, every meeting, the budget crisis. Bernie Parks was from here. It was all kind of problems.
Mr. President, he's not talking about item 14.
Dion, shut up.
John Walsh.
The nuttier they get, the saner I get. HollywoodHighlands.org. Check our website. This item, in case you're out there, those people in the dark out there, concerns the Municipal Improvement Corporation. There's no problem here. Absolutely no problem. And I'm sure that Parks will agree. And yesterday, you know what they said about you and Jan Perry at the roast. by putting USC in the 9th District, Wesson promised Jan Perry
On
some Trojans.
the issues, on our issues, Mr. Walsh, on the issue before you. This is not public comment. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. This is not public comment. Thank you very much. Thank you. To Van Nuys, we go to Wayne.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Walsh, you're disrupting the meeting. Please sit down.
Yes. Am I on?
You're on, Wayne. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. Yes, we have some obviously very emotional responses to this measure. It's a bad measure because the CRA was destroyed, not by Jerry Brown, by such projects as 1601 North Vine Street. So why are we issuing bonds for things that Wall Street shouldn't be having mom and pop investors investing in? If Mr. Huizar made a good point, that's the first time I've ever heard that. And he stated that his residents go out of the city and shop. But we have Walmart and other private investors that want to come here and open up grocery stores and businesses. So why don't we take a new approach to development and get rid of these stupid bonds and these public debt projects, because what you're going to wind up getting are vacant buildings and things like Marley's Hamburgers. You don't have a hamburger stand and you don't have a building over there. What you got is a sewer of corruption. You have the Coliseum. They had bonds. Now they're going to have to give it away for free to USC, which I love USC. I think they should get control of the whole city. The trustees of USC should just take over the city council and run the whole city, because we'd be debt free in 4 or 5 years. But don't do this. This is wrong. It's not investment grade. It's junk bonds. And the mom and pop investors are going to get good interest rates in the short term, but in the long term, the city's going to be bankrupt, and they're just going to have bankruptcy claims. So vote no. Thank you.
Okay, that completes the speaker's card on this. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just for the sake of the record, because the public speakers had it completely wrong, what this does is refinances existing debt. This doesn't create new debt. This is the ordinance that creates the fund in which we will be able to do that refinancing and create an annual savings on existing MICWA debt. That's all that this does.
Thank you very much. No other speakers on the queue. Mr. Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
13 ayes. Mr. Huizar.
Mr. President, can we send item number 12 forthwith, please?
12 forthwith. 12 forthwith. And anything will save us money, Mr. Clerk said it forthwith, too. Next item.
Mr. President, would you like to adjourn the special meeting and return to the regular?
Yes, we've completed the special agenda, correct?
That is correct, sir.
All right, let's go to the regular agenda.
Very good. That brings us to item number 3, called Special for Cards.
Item number 3, special by cards. John Walsh.
John Walsh. 33,000 hits since Sunday afternoon. Go see what everyone's looking at. Garcetti slitting the throat of Wendy Gruhl. But this is about REAP, and it's very important that nothing I say has any hate speech, because if you want to hear hate speech, just go to citymaven.com and you will see all the hate speech of these people behind closed doors.
City Attorney. Thank you very much, Mr. Walsh. Michael Callejon. Michael? Mr. Walsh, please refrain from pointing like that. Thank you very much. And those who are standing in the hall, please be seated. You're disrupting the meeting. Michael, your turn. The last card on this item.
Okay, once again, we're removing property from REAP. Okay? How can you guys put property in REAP at first, from the beginning? Mr. Weezer has an issue at the property. The rear of the property is falling down on Soto. It's been there for 8 years. Sidewalks are barricaded. You can't walk across the street. You got to walk across Soto into another across the street where it's all mud. Mr. Weezer's office has known about this since he's taken office. Yet he chose to do nothing about it. Oh, I'm sorry, his staff has chose to do nothing about it. Yet you still put properties in REAP. This property was condemned, and there's somebody living in it. This property I'm speaking of should be in REAP. But they sued you. And because you put your tails between your legs and didn't want to deal with a lawsuit, I don't know how it got out of being condemned. So you city councilors are allowing someone to live in a condemned property, which is ready to fall down the hillside, and you got the audacity to put these other properties in REAP? I don't understand how you can do that. But I guess there's a double standard. We sit here, the REAP laws state that the rent escrow program should be taken into consideration when the city property or the properties in the city aren't up to code. This one has the whole backyard's falling down. I'm ready to kill somebody. But they say nobody's supposed to be there, so when somebody dies, you're going to say, oops, sorry. And you have the audacity, because somebody's weeds aren't cut, to put them in REAP. They got weeds and you put them in REAP. Hillsides are coming down, lives are at stake, and you choose to do nothing about it. That's hilarious. I don't know how this should be against the law. This should be against the law, where you guys are just taking money from homeowners. Shame on you.
Thank you very much. There's no other speakers' cards. There's no other on the queue. Mr. Clerk, I don't have a card for you, Mr. Dowd. All right, I'm sorry. I don't have a card. You've done this twice. I don't have a card. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Please be seated. Please be seated. There's no speakers on the queue. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item.
Mr. President, that brings us to item 4, called Special for Cards. Might I remind Council that a substitute motion has been circulated and amended. Again, that's a substitute for motion Garcetti-Labange.
Arnold Sachs, only card on number 4. Arnold Sachs.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. Just for a point of clarification, the Los Angeles Community Garden Council has been in existence approximately how long? I mean, I'm just curious to know, because of the huge fiasco that occurred in Jan Perry's district with that community garden, and if the Community Garden Council was in existence at that time, what was the input on resolving that problem, other than the fact that everybody was evicted from the property and the community garden was turned back to the property owner, who made a profit on the property? And now, based on the resulting the results of having it sent back to him, now he doesn't have to live up to commitments that he agreed to, where part of it was going to be turned into a park and part of it was going to be used for industrial, to develop a business. Now all that property will be used to develop as a business. So is this community, Los Angeles Community Garden Council, similar to the Economic Review Council that we just heard Mr. Alarcon talk about, and when he asked, what are they doing as regarding the Chinatown project that you just had on your agenda? Because that was an impact review that should have been done, that wasn't done. So what exactly does the Los Angeles Community Garden Council consist of? How long has it been around? Thank you for your time and attention. By the way, it looks like we have 6 potted plants sitting around the council chambers.
All right, Mr. Sachs, I don't say anything about Lennox or you. Have a good afternoon. Thank you very much. And there's nothing wrong with potted plants. Next item, there's no speakers on the queue. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item.
And for clarification, again, that was to adopt the substitute motion. That brings us to item 5, called Special for Cards.
Arnold Sachs. You can start running the clock.
Oh, what's this start running the clock?
Get up here because people want to hear you, Arnold. Let's go.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, please sit down. Please
Here's
sit
what
down.
we have. The District 6 Real Property Trust Fund. Again, point of clarification. There's 15 districts in this council chambers. How many districts have property trust funds? And the accounting that's involved, because you're going to be talking about the budget concerns that refer to the city, how much money is involved in these property trust funds for each district, because as Mr. Reyes just said, he has no money for sidewalks and streetlights and crosswalk improvement, but we have money here for lighting, and we have another district where they're paying for personnel, but no money for sidewalk improvement in Chinatown because we have no CRA. So again, the same question.
Thank you very much. No other speakers on the queue. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item.
Mr. President, that brings us to item 6, called Special for Cards.
Mr. Walsh. Mr. Sachs. Pass on 6. Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, don't worry, I'm going home right after this. It's not going to take 2 minutes. I've accomplished my goals here today. This has to do with the Nowruz celebration you had here the other day, last week. This is $1,200, $1,195. We're paying for their celebration? No. If you want to come here and get all your publicity, no. We don't pay for it, they pay for it. And I want to say right now that I'm against bombing Iran. Please do not attack me on this $1,195. And I'll finish by, I always point out my website. Don't go to my website. Go right now to City Maven, Mayor Sam, Ron KLA, and listen to the hate speech and look at the hate speech at the Wesson roast last night.
All right, Mr. Walsh.
Speech, including
Thank you very much. You have a good afternoon. Easy on the microphone. No other speakers on the queue? Let's hold on that comment. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, we have no other speakers?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item.
That's item 7, called Special for Cards.
Yeah, that was called by Mr. Walsh. Mr. Walsh has left. Thank you. No speakers on the queue? I don't see it, Mr. Sachs. All we have is the cards that are presented by the sergeant. Sergeant, I don't see him. We don't have a card. Mr. Clerk, do you have a card on that?
Only the John Walsh card that you handed me, sir.
That's the only card we have. Sergeant, did he hand you a card? All right, Mr. Dowd, please.
All right, I'm not sure how much time, so I'm probably going to waive 7 and just do 11. Mr. Attorney, how many minutes do I have?
You're okay, Matt. You're okay. You can speak. We'll give it to you then at 11. We'll give you at 11. No, come on. No, come on, Matt.
You. Special meeting. What was I thinking? I'm right back to the beginning. All right, Bill Rosendahl. I get to talk about my councilman for a hot sec. This looks okay. It looks okay because it's only 19,500. No one in the city's going to care about that because they're putting through millions of other shady things. So no one cares. So it's something to do with transportation, West Los Angeles Transportation Improvement and Mitigation Specific Plan. Oh my goodness, only 19,500, Bill? for traffic mitigation on the west side? What are they doing to you? Get $19 million. That's what no, because I'm tired. I have to go to court for all these tickets off the beach. I got to go up to West LA on Purdue. It's a nightmare. So let me tell you something. I'll save a second for my next comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Arnold Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon again, Arnold Sachs. This is why I held this card. Excuse me, Councilman Rosendahl. What's the traffic like on the west side in your district? I understand it's a lot of gridlock. Yet here you're taking $19,500 in Department of Transportation, West Los Angeles Transportation Improvement and Mitigation funds for a personal contract with this guy from Gruen Associates. I don't understand it. We have gridlock from the west side to the east side, and we're using transportation funds for contracts, personal contracts with associates. Mr. Reyes, I don't have money for sidewalks and this and that, but I got $50,000 to vote on for the museum, for the Eli Broad Museum. But they're doing sidewalk renovation in downtown LA, and that's redevelopment agency money. Why is there no redevelopment money here? Why? What? How? What pots of money do each one of you councilmen have that are unknown to the public? AB 1290 funds. Well, we got $100,000 here, we got $100,000 here, we got $50,000 there, we got funds for this, we got funds for that. But when it comes down to seeing some things done, sidewalk improvements, lights, cameras, we don't have money. Why is that so? $19,000 for a personal contract, we got gridlock on the west side. How many other people have contracts for Department of Transportation Improvement and Mitigation funds? Is there one in your district, Mr. Koretz, Mr. Weezer, Mr. Garcetti? Mr. Bisayeno, is there a traffic mitigation fund in your district? Mr. Kikorian, Mr. Parks, Mr. Labonge, you have a traffic mitigation fund? How's it being used?
You can come to my district anytime from Lenox, Arnold. Thank you so much. To Van Nuys City Hall, Wayne.
Corruption, corruption, corruption. That's all you have. On a Friday, everybody's left. Nobody pays attention. $19,500 for who? Gruen? First thing you got to wonder, how many campaign donations has this association made in the last 8 years? I'm sure none. And of course, the councilman picked up the phone book, flipped through the phone book, or went on Google and just happened to come up with Gruen Associates and just happened to pick them. There's no other reason, right? And this was put up into open bidding, right? Of course it was. And they were the lowest bidder, naturally. That's not the way things are working. So the way things work in the city is that you get into a certain clique, just like when you were in school and you had the bullies in the playground, and either you do what the bullies want or you get the crap beat out of you. And the way businesses are and the way residents are is that if you don't join this 15 council mafia, then you sit on the sidelines while Gruen Associates gets this $19,500 weekend gift. And then, of course, they will amend the contract because after it expires, they're going to need additional funding. And then it'll be a continuing resolution and it will pass without even public comment. This is the only public comment we're ever going to hear about. Just like with the radio contracts from Motorola. Remember that one? Started out with a $500,000. It went to $7.5 million. And then they wound up not getting a single radio in those squad cars. So that's all this is. Broken city, broken promises, Carmen Trutanich, broken promises, and then this kind of crap just keeps going on and on. But somebody someday will wonder who paid attention to this like the Coliseum.
Have a nice weekend. That concludes public comment, except for Mr. Wayne. Excuse me. Matt Dow. Matt Dow. This is number 11. Hold on, Matt.
All right, thank you.
Matt, the clerk got me off. Stand down. This is number 7. No one on the speaker queue. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Now, what are we on right now, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, we are on item 11 called Special for Cards.
Item 11. Matt Dow, thank you.
Blame the city clerk. That's the way to go. All right, and also, John Walsh, if you're watching, I see that they're reimbursing the money for that thing in the rotunda. So let me get that out of the way, too, before the city attorney jumps on me, because this is an item that's very important to me. April 16 to 20, Mediation Awareness Week. Herb Wesson, this is for you, this item. Mediation awareness. That's what's lacking in the federal cases, is any kind of mediation. Nobody's coming to us saying, gee, how can we just resolve? All boats rise. Let's just nut it out. So, see, the signal you're giving me in Zuma Dog is that you like us here. You love this show. You want it every day. We keep getting the support from the public, and everybody thinks it's a joke, and it's fun, and it's public comment. Let's have all the drama and all the bad words. And the city attorney, Dion, I don't know if you're listening, Richard Alicon's keeping them amused, so I'm free to say whatever I want. I mean, it's hilarious, but the jury won't find it funny when they see all the paperwork and they go, wow, they harassed you and they didn't mediate? The city didn't mediate with you, Mr. Dowd? And I'm going to say, no, not once, ever. All they did was squelch my public comment when I came to the city to mediate the case. I got all these tickets. It's LAPD. It's all the worst things in America. All the worst things that they fought against, but they come down and they just keep retaliating, and it's vindictive, and there's no mediation. Now, Herb Wesson, I'm telling you, we got all year for this. Look, Mediation Awareness Week. How about we get involved in that? Some mediation and some awareness.
All right, that concludes it. Please pick up the paper you dropped, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Dow. I don't want to get you for littering. All righty. Thank you very much. No other items in front of us. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Sergeant, we remind the man who dropped his papers he's got to pick them up. Thank you. No other items before us, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
Thank you. So ordered.
The desk is clear.
Any announcements? Sergeant, will you make sure we don't have anyone litter in the chambers? Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2 announcements to make. We're going to turn on the light ceremony at the Westchester tennis courts tonight. It's a long time in coming, but there's an incredible amount of community support, and people in the community donated money, raised money, put things together, made it all happen, and of course our city also stepped up to the plate. Tonight we celebrate the installation of 32 new bright light fixtures that will illuminate the tennis courts at Westchester Park for the very first time. This event will feature tennis lessons, clinics, and faster serve contests. The lights are the latest improvement in our overall strategy to upgrade the park, which in the last year has welcomed a new skateboard park, a new swimming pool, and a new basketball court. So if you want to get out there tonight, come on. It's 6:30 to 9 o'clock. And then on Sunday, if you want to go over to a festival, a concert, come over to LMU between 4 and 7 for their annual College Fest. They'll have gourmet food, the special performance of the gym class heroes, and the concert is free and open to the public. That's on Sunday the 25th from 4 to 7. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, and it's great to go at Loyola Marymount, a great university there on the west end of town. Mr. Zine.
I learned last night that the Persian festival scheduled for Sunday, Westwood Boulevard in Westwood, has been canceled due to the inclement weather. So anyone who's scheduled or anticipates going out there, I understand it's been canceled for this Sunday and hopefully be rescheduled. So Nose Rouge, for our Persian community, there was an event planned this Sunday that again has been canceled.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Mr. Alarcon.
Council members, I want to announce the 19th annual Cesar E. Chavez Pilgrimage March for Justice on Sunday, March 25th at Brand Park. It begins at Brand Park and they walk to Richie Valens Park. There'll be celebrations of science, students' art contests, health fair, kids' educational corners, food, entertainment, ballet folklorico. And it's just a great day for us to appreciate the idea of service, which is what the Cesar Chavez holiday is all about, the idea of giving back to your community. So this is a celebration, again, of Cesar E. Chavez, the 19th annual March for Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. I want to have a special welcome to my very special deputy of Special Projects, Sheila Irani, her mother, Nair Irani. Please give her a welcome. A very special welcome. It's Take Your Mom to Work Day, Sheila. Good job, and we welcome you. Thank you for your daughter's great work and commitment to Los Angeles. Members, we're going to rise now for adjourning motions. Mr. Weezer.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I ask that we adjourn today in memory of Annette Adest, mother of one of downtown's most beloved leaders and someone I'm very pleased to call a friend, Adele Adest Yellen. Annette Adest was born on July 17, 1918 in Brooklyn, New York, and she passed away this past weekend on Sunday, March 18th in Santa Monica. She was the wife of Jacob Adest. Together they made a lovely family, raising two daughters, Adele Adest Yellen and Wendy Adest. Annette was an accountant and office manager for her husband, Jacob's ophthalmology practice. She loved bridge, her children, her caregivers in the later years of her life, and with a good sense of humor, she was always remarked on her love for her handsome men. She was a supporter of Israel and generously supported many charitable organizations, Jewish and liberal causes throughout her life. She leaves behind a loving family, including her daughters Adele Adest Yellen and Wendy Adest, grandchildren Jessica Sage Yellen and Seth Maxwell Yellen, and her newborn great-grandson Isaiah Felix Yellen. Her beloved husband Jacob Adest and son-in-law Ira Edward Yellen passed on from this life before her. Services are this Sunday, March 25 at 10 a.m. at Mount Sinai Memorial Park on Forest Lawn Drive.
May she rest in peace. Any, Mr. Parks?
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Louise Anthony Relaford, who was born April 1942, died recently March 13, 2012 at the age of 69. Louise graduated from Lincoln High School in Wagner, Oklahoma, later attended Langston University just outside of Guthrie, Oklahoma. She met and married Billy James Relaford Sr. in 1960. She worked as a dietary supervisor for many years, but her most important job was raising her two children, Billy Jr. and Kim. She also took great pride in being a grandmother. Louise used the power of storytelling to pass down both family history and as well as common sense principles to her grandchildren. Hard work, honesty, and integrity were also keystones of principles she emphasized. She is survived by her husband, Bill James Relaford Sr., her children, Dr. Bill James Relaford Jr. and Kimberly Relaford, and a host of family members. Funeral service were held today, March 24th, 2012, 4 p.m. at Simpson Mortuary, located at 3443 West Manchester in Inglewood. And add Jan Perry to that also.
Jan Perry will second that. Members, let's remember all those who went before us. This meeting is now adjourned.